All right. Welcome, Brian Sanchez.
Hey, nice to be here.
Thanks for making this happen, man. I appreciate you making the time.
Oh, dude, definitely. I was really bummed that we didn't get to do it the first time.
Yeah.
And so when you got back to me, I was like, yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So I've been wanting to talk to you for a while now, especially about, this unique surgery and the incredible results that you have from it. And it got a lot of attention on social media for a while, and then it kind of just faded away seemingly. And no one really talked about it after that, because I guess there wasn't anyone with as insane of a story as you that had come out of the woodwork.
Yeah.
And then recently we reconnected, and so here we are sitting down to talk about limb lengthening surgery, which is pretty wild.
Yeah.
If you guys followed Brian before, you used to go by "Got My Knees Done" on social media, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's what it, yeah.
Okay.
I changed it recently to Brian the Sasquatch because...
Fitting.
Thank you. Because I'm a huge believer in the power of words. Mm-hmm. And even though this was like a pop culture reference to White Chicks. Have you ever seen White Chicks?
Long time ago.
Okay. Love that movie.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's a scene in it where the Wayans brothers characters, they meet the white girl's friends, and they're like, "Oh, did you get taller?" And they're like, "No, we got our knees done. You can do that." And so it was a pop culture reference to that. It's like, I got my knees done, meaning I had the heightening surgery, nothing to do with my actual knees. But then I started getting knee pain, and I'm like, man, I should probably not call myself "got my knees done," because I'm a big believer in the power of words, and I just don't want to to give myself bad juju, so I changed it over to something different.
So there's a quick high-level primer for everyone watching who's not familiar with you and kind of your content when it was first popping off on social media, and probably unintentionally. Were you trying to go viral with the content, or just trying to document, or what was it exactly?
So originally, I used to have a social media account before. It was mostly just lifting stuff, and then I kind of wanted to get away from that, and I was going to stay private and have a Instagram documentation of my experience, but have it just be for my friends and family, so that they would know what's going on while I'm there, so that they could feel good about me, well, as good as is possible, about me being in a foreign country. They can at least see, oh, he's progressing. But then when the gravity of what the heck did I just do, kind of hit me. And I had gone through the hospital experience, which I'll go into more. And I was like, oh no, what am I doing? And I realized it's not all so, it's a lot scarier than what I was expecting. I wanted to be treated with the utmost care possible. And so I was like, you know what? I'm pretty sure I can make this into a big following. People are going to follow me for doing this crazy thing. And I'm going to use it as leverage to make sure that these people take the best possible care of me. And so that's when I decided to just switch it over to public. And then that was the entire reason, was kind of as an insurance policy, just to make sure, because I'd only been there for a few days, and I already was kind of starting to get a little sketched out.
So we're talking about the facility you went to get limb lengthening surgery to get from.
Yeah.
What was your starting height? 5'11" or 6 feet?
So in centimeters, it was, it depends, right? Because I measured myself at the beginning of the day, and it's over 183. And then I measured myself in the evening, and it was 182.5. So
this is if you weigh yourself before or after taking your morning piss, but spine compression version. I would say morning height is the legit height. So
I was just barely over 6 foot.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So then you went from that to 6'6", or are you more than that now? Or?
No. So it's about that, right? So I'm kind of holding off on giving myself the official doctor, height measurement until I'm perfectly healed, right? But every single time that I compare myself with someone who says they're 6'6", I'm taller. But I'm pretty sure
fudges their stuff.
Yes, but that's what I was going to say. So I kind of, based off of the the level of fudginess that I think that's going on there. I think I'm about 6'6". I might be 6'5.5". I might be 6'6", and a little bit with shoes. Like, I don't know, but
I've met so many 6 foot people who aren't.
yes.
And I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah. It's crazy how much height matters.
Yeah.
Even in like that little 2-inch range, like it makes a, like within 2 inches, it's like a big difference between 6 foot, 6'2".
Oh yeah, visually, yeah.
5'10", 6 foot. It's like, it's crazy. In fact, I get a lot of people who say, you did all of this for just 3 inches or a few inches. And first off, it was 6, but but second, like people like judge so differently, just based off of those 2 or 3 inches.
Yeah, we got to talk about just general perspective from people who meet you now, or I don't know, just like how do people treat you now versus before? Is it any different? Because it's not like you were short.
No.
6 feet tall, dude. Like that's...
Yeah, I never felt short. Height actually was never really an issue for me.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people are watching probably like, why did you do this?
Yeah. The real story of why I did this is I only really was able to like admit it to myself and kind of like really get the full picture and be like, oh, that's what happened recently, right? And it's also too long of a form to like post on Instagram. So it's like I've never really told anyone else. But yeah, I never felt short. That wasn't really it, because I know I was malnutritioned as a kid. That sounded bad. I know that I didn't eat as much or eat as well.
Well, yeah, like I'm sure a lot of people can relate to, oh, in hindsight, it sucks that my mom fed me like, you know, goldfish for snacks and I ate veggie burgers instead of like meat or whatever. And then maybe if I got enough protein, I could have been 3 inches taller or whatever. Yeah. And that's certainly possible and probably the case for some people.
Yeah. And the fact that I ate how I ate growing up and I still managed to be fairly tall kind of gives me an idea of like, oh, I probably could have squeezed out a few more inches, you know.
Do you have siblings?
I do. Yeah. I have, I'm one of 10.
Jesus.
Yeah, we're all half siblings. They're all my half siblings. On my dad's side, I'm one of 7. On my mom's side, total one of 4.
So what's the height range of everyone?
On my mom's side, short people. Yeah. On my dad's side,
define short.
Colombian. We're all Colombian. Have you? Okay, short.
I met you.
Oh, that's true. On my mom's side, they're 5. The tallest male except me on my mom's side, I think is probably like 5. Oh, there's one exception. One cousin of mine who's probably around 6 foot. Other than that, everyone else is 5'9" or below, easy.
Okay.
Yeah, like there isn't anyone who's even close to being considered tall. And then on my dad's side, though, I did notice that like when I finally met the people, so I was estranged from my dad's side for a long time, up until maybe 4-6 years ago now. I started to meet some of my siblings, and it turns out that side's a little bit more physically impressive.
Sure.
I don't know how else to say. Yeah, they're
taller.
Yeah. They're taller, stronger, and so I'm like, oh, that's where it comes from. I got.
That's why you're a house.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, because I always felt like the genetic anomaly on my family, on my mother's side. I was like, where does it come from that I can get muscle without trying? And
so they all build muscle super easily as well, or it's just like they're taller.
My dad, for example, I never actually met him. He was killed when I was little, but he, from what I've heard from that side of the family, he was very well built. And the pictures I see, he was like on the taller side as well, closer to 6 foot. Which for a Colombian is a big deal, right? And then I also have a brother who's I think he's a physical therapist up in Buffalo. I only met him once, but he's kind of, well built as well. And then I have another brother who's like 6 foot. He might even be like 6.5 foot. Where does he live now? He lives in Florida. And so I met him and he was tall. I was like, oh, like it's kind of cool seeing, you know, that side of the family. Like now it makes my genetics make a little bit more sense.
Right.
But there isn't any like freaks that I found, but that's definitely where the height.
I could have sworn in one article I read that somebody was 6'6".
Oh, brother-in-law.
Oh, doesn't count that.
Yes. Yeah. So here's interesting about that, right? So my wife is fairly tall. She's 5'9", and she's the shortest between. No, actually, no. Her mom's also 5'9", and then her sister was 6 foot when she was 13,
Jeez.
or something like. Yeah, when she was really young, she was already like really tall. And I have a picture with her. It's pretty funny. She's tall. And my brother-in-law is about 6'6". And one day, you know, we were sitting kind of like you and me just next to each other. I was helping him get some paperwork done at some office, and we're sitting in the same chair next to each other. And I look at him and I'm like, how am I taller than you when we're sitting down? It doesn't make any sense. Like I knew I had a big butt, but like it didn't make sense that he's 6'6" and I'm 6 foot and I'm taller than him. And then we got up and I had to look up at him and I'm like, it's the legs. And that's actually kind of one of the things that started me realizing, oh, I just have short legs.
So proportionally it felt like you were short, but just like in one part of one half of the body.
Honestly, it didn't bother me too much, right? It was just kind of like you know, I noticed it.
Right.
But then I thought about it. I'm like, oh, that kind of sucks. It's like, I've got short legs. And then I saw it in pictures and I'm like, oh yeah, I do have short legs. Oh, I don't like that.
It wasn't like how much of it was an arm thing versus a leg shortness thing?
I don't care about my arms being long.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't care too much about that. I only cared to the extent that
not that they're long, but proportionally they like sat lower on your frame. I could have sworn that was like a reason, or
that was sort of a reason. It wasn't a reason to do it. It was a reason that allowed me to do it. Does that make sense? Because if my arms weren't really long for my proportions, I wouldn't have gotten the surgery.
Right, because it would have looked odd.
Exactly. Okay. So what that allowed me to do was basically like give myself some permission, you know? Like.
So you mentioned how that was a reason you felt like it was worthwhile to do it because it was going to get you more proportional. But I'm assuming most people who are doing this kind of surgery are not thinking about the proportions as much as just like, I want to be taller. Is that typical, or?
It's all across the board. There are some people who care about proportions, right? But the main motivator is still obviously the height. And then there are some people who are like, F proportions. I just want to be, in fact, those exact words, you know, fuck proportions. I just want to be taller. I'm like, how can you say fuck proportions? Like, and I'll try to talk them out of it too, because I don't want them to do something that they'll regret. You know, even with my ape index now, I'm like a little bit self-conscious because I'm, you know, most people have like a +1 or +2 ape index. I think most guys.
You want to describe what that is? Because I have no idea. I'm assuming kind of have an idea of what you're talking about.
Wingspan to height ratio. So like if I have like a 6'5" wingspan and a 6'6" height, I would be a -1. So from my understanding, I don't really know for sure, and it also depends on ethnicity and or race and stuff. Like I don't know the exact numbers, but I believe that the average guy has a slightly positive ape index, and so, but like a 0 is considered to be the what's it? Was that the Vitruvian? No, you know that picture that.
The Vitruvian Man or whatever?
Thank you. Yes, the Vitruvian Man. Like the
and it's like
that's a 1-to-1.
Gotcha.
Where the height is the same as so like that's by some people considered to be ideal. And so I kind of wanted to hit that, or at least be just a little bit under it, but not too much under it, where now I'm like 1+ standard deviation away, then I would feel self-conscious about it.
Hmm.
But some people don't give a crap about that.
Yeah, I would imagine being able to walk around and not be insecure would probably, well, I don't know, maybe there's a new thing to be insecure about at that point, but
yeah.
As far as like, how many of those people notice after the fact? Like, oh shit, this is probably stupid. I feel like a lot based on your reaction.
No, it's a lot more should.
Oh, so a lot of people are stoked and they look silly is what you're saying.
I don't want to say that they look silly, right? But this is one of those things, like you just did this gigantic freaking thing on your body, right? You can't really take it back.
Yeah.
So even if you had that thought cross your mind, you already did it. So now your subconscious is going to force you to believe that you're fine to protect yourself. You know what I mean? And I can see myself doing the same thing. If I truly thought that like my wingspan was shorter, I'd probably convince myself it's fine. I'd have to, because otherwise I'd go crazy.
It's like the most extreme equivalent of getting a bad tattoo.
100%.
And everyone has to tell you it's good, but like everyone thinks you look stupid.
Yeah, and that was one of my fears, is I didn't want to walk around with with silly proportions, because that would completely defeat the purpose, right?
Yeah.
At least one of the main purposes.
Yeah, so interesting. As I was doing some research for this, I found a Reddit thread, and it was, I guess people, are you familiar with Baki the Grappler? It's like a anime show.
Yeah.
And the story of Jack Hanma.
Yeah, it's a funny story. While I was in Turkey, I binged the entire show from beginning to end. Really? So I only watched it while I was there.
Would you recommend?
It depends. If you're into over the top
extreme violence and like almost not even almost a caricature of masculinity, then yes, because it's a ridiculous show. So for anyone who's watching who doesn't know, I feel like a primer on the show might be worthwhile of why people call you the real Jack Hanma. So I wrote this down. Baki the Grappler is a Japanese manga and anime series focused on martial arts and extreme combat. It follows Baki Hanma, a young fighter striving to surpass his father, Yujiro Hanma. Hopefully I'm not butchering that pronunciation. The strongest creature on Earth. The series explores brutal battles, unique characters, and the psychology of strength. Jack Hanma is Baki's half-brother and a relentless fighter obsessed with achieving ultimate power. Like Baki, he is a son of Yujiro Hanma, but his path is marked by a darker obsession with self-improvement and surpassing his physical limits. Jack's drive for strength led him to using dangerous experimental steroids and undergoing limb-lengthening surgery. Fueled by his frustration over his comparatively shorter stature, which he perceived as a weakness in his quest to become the strongest, the surgery involved breaking and extending his bones to increase his height. Combined with his use of experimental drugs and an unforgiving training regimen, Jack's transformation symbolized his willingness to endure extreme pain and sacrifice for the sake of power. And I guess somebody was comparing you to him, and I guess it's like probably the most real life equivalent scenario that anyone could think of. And they were basically, the thread was about how, why don't people think this is cooler? Because in the show, it's badass and everyone's supportive of it and thinks it's sick. And then in real life, people either want to see you fail or they tell you you're, insecure or whatever. And somebody who claimed to be you, who might have been you.
It was me.
Okay. Yeah. Replied. And you said, well, it was a reply to somebody saying, for some reason, there, as in people who get the surgery done, fibulas remain permanently severed after the procedure. That's what I see in most x-rays of the people that have gone through the surgery. So I guess their ability to do regular things like sports or any kind of physical activity really is severely diminished for the rest of their lives. And you said your fibula's healed 100%, and it's been 1.5 years and my other bones are still healing, almost done, but still takes a minute. When I'm done healing, you better believe I'm going to work out again and give Jack a run for his money.
That sounds like me too, yeah. Even if I hadn't remembered saying that, that's me.
So that was 3 months ago-ish. Mm-hmm. So we're almost at the 2-year mark since surgery number 1?
No, December 2nd was the 2-year mark.
Oh, damn, dude.
I know.
Wow.
When that hit, I was like, oh man, it's been 2 years. It's been a road.
So when did you start the Instagram page again?
Sorry, the first time or
just like starting documenting everything. Like you had December 2nd, 2 years ago, and then that is literal surgery date number 1, or that's you like traveling there, or
November 30th. Yeah, November 30th was me traveling, and I think I started documenting November 29th.
Mm-hmm.
So like the very first post is me on my last daddy-daughter date with my oldest daughter. And then it was like saying goodbye to my family, being in the airport, and then surgery, and that's so November 30th, I believe, of 2022. That's when I started documenting it. And then I did that all the way through till Joe Rogan mentioned me. And then everyone and their mom was like, hey, did you know he, and I'm like, oh crap, I don't want this.
When did he mention the first time?
It was, I believe like December of 2023.
Did I mention it with him, or was that
no? That was someone else. Yeah, I'm trying to remember his name, but yeah,
I don't remember how I stumbled across it, but you responded to a clip of me on a podcast, and I guess we were talking about limb lengthening surgery in general, or did I mention your specific case? It must have been.
You mean how I contacted you?
Yeah.
So you were on.
Candace Horbatz, I think.
Yeah. I remember because people were saying like he finally went on a date. But yeah, that's who it was. It was Candace. What's her name?
Yeah.
And you guys had started talking about it, and I don't remember what was said, but you had questions, and I said, hey, I know this guy. He's really cool. I would take questions from him, because I've had a lot of other people ask me, but I don't want to be on other people's podcasts that I don't know who they are. It's like, this guy would be awesome. Let me contact him and see if he would be willing to. And then I think I contacted you on Instagram, and then you responded, and that's how we got in contact.
Yeah. So I've done some content on height increasing stuff, but it was more on like the drug side of things, because there's a growing, I don't even know if you'd call it a community, but it's like young teens who are going out of their way to use pharmacology to inhibit their growth plate closure to try and extend the window that they can grow taller. And that was on my radar as something that's happening. And I wasn't even aware really that people were doing this like post epiphyseal plate closure and getting like adult gains out of actual surgical procedures. So this is pretty wild to me, especially hearing your case being like a bodybuilder size and going for the maxed out version of the surgery. So you're kind of like the extreme case study for this thing at like the hyper extreme of it. Quick interruption to bring you a note from Marek Health, the telehealth platform trusted by Olympia caliber bodybuilders, professional athletes, UFC fighters, and regular Joes who just want to dial in and optimize their performance and health. This is also who Brian is using now. We were shocked to see that he had not even had a blood test done to see what his hormone status was, his nutrient deficiencies, genetic predispositions. None of this was analyzed when he was going through this pretty intensive multiple surgical procedures and the recovery thereafter. You would think, being highly contingent on your capacity to regenerate and build bone integrity, that this would have been looked at, but he never had a blood panel done. So we stepped in and are now overseeing his care with expert level oversight from our team of clinicians and also our health coaches who are helping him dial in a personalized regimen. Basically what Marek Health does is it offers access to high-level comprehensive blood work. And with that, you can then either have a baseline panel that you have for future reference yourself, you can do your own analysis, or you can let us take the wheel and bring in an expert to analyze it in depth and go over it with you and develop a personalized protocol that meets your individual needs and oversees your care thereafter, and also is proactive in a preventative medicine context whereby they will actually call out things and root things out before they become problematic, rather than waiting for disease to rear its ugly head, calling it out well before it has an opportunity to. is what we're all about, and was the main motivation behind me starting this platform to begin with. Is I was getting shamed for even trying to get blood work up in Canada, and I was having to drive over the border to the US and get, pay out of pocket for blood work. And then even with that, I'd have to figure out how to analyze it myself. And there was nothing like this available at the time. And even now, despite the widespread emergence of like TRT clinics, a lot of them simply exist to mass prescribe medications and do not have in-depth, rigorous oversight like this. And even among those who claim to, most are not actually qualified, in my opinion, to do so at the level or at a standard that we deem to be high. Like, there are very few companies that are doing this at a level that they portray in their marketing material. There are some doing it the right way and some doing it with very, very intelligent, rigorously educated, and passionate individuals who actually love this shit and want to continuously stay on the cutting edge of all things preventative medicine, performance, optimization, and it shows in the quality of care that they provide their patients and the level of the standard by which they hold their work to. It's across the board in Marek Health. It is a standard that we pride ourselves on, and it is why I speak so highly of our organization. Individuals who are actually stoked about this stuff and have been rigorously educating themselves beyond their, accreditations and their even, becoming a doctor. A lot of people just stop there and do not care to further educate themselves, because why would they? They can now make the money and be a doctor, and that's good enough for them. Not the case with the expert clinicians, health coaches, etc. in Marek Health. So if you want to get access to it, you can check out the link below. I couldn't say much more. It is the highest quality oversight you will get, in my opinion, in this field when it comes to hormone optimization, preventative medicine, high-level diagnostic analysis, or even just getting a baseline panel assessed to see where you stand from a cardiovascular risk context, insulin sensitivity metrics, anything across the board when it comes to diagnostics. We will evaluate to a level that is rarely paralleled, and if we don't feel we can accommodate your needs because of a very unique scenario, we will absolutely send you to the expert that would be appropriate to actually dig in further. So, and also if you just want to assess what your, status is for capacity to grow to a full height. Like, I know this episode's all about, getting taller. I would have loved to have a baseline panel that was comprehensive when I was in my teens to see that I am actually optimized in all areas. And I am certainly not suggesting that anyone would optimize with hormone augmentation in their teens, of course, but knowing if I had like blatant deficiencies or I had like a low IGF-1 level or something, like these are things I would like to know just for, reference and potentially context to bring to the appropriate medical professional if appropriate to see if intervention is warranted. Maybe it's just a basic nutrient deficiency too, or maybe I'm insulin resistant. Like, there are things that would have been helpful to know. And I always wish, part of the motivation behind this company as well, I wish I had a comprehensive baseline blood work panel, before I started all the bodybuilding, anabolics, etc. It would have been very nice to see laid out, crystal clear, a full-blown analysis of my health status and hormone metrics especially. So anyways, we're going off on a wild tangent. I think you get the point. Marek Health, I think we're at the cutting edge when it comes to this stuff, and I could not speak more highly about what we do. So if you want to check it out and get the same level of oversight that Brian will be getting, and also I get myself, you can click the link below and get started. So
Yeah.
So we connected, and, for the baseline height you started at was already considered above average, I guess. Like, it would have to be, unquestionably. How did you find out about this yourself? Because it's like, I guess the algorithm or whatever, or maybe she brought it up for the first time to me. I don't even remember. But like, how did you come across it? Because it seems kind of weird that the algorithm would feed it to you when you're just like... Yeah,
the algorithm didn't feed it to me, actually. Yeah. I remember now. So I don't remember how I started thinking about it, but dude, the way that I make decisions is really weird now that I think about it. It's like, man, I'm going to seem really peculiar if I don't word this the right way. So...
No, don't worry about it.
All right.
This whole thing is peculiar.
Good point. Yes. So I had the random thought of like, I wonder if there's a way to get taller after your growth plates close. Like, because I saw some like exercises and stuff. You can like, okay, yeah, I already know that's bullshit, right? There's no way that that'll work.
By the way, what is bullshit? Just like quickly, that you could just like fire off as don't do this because it's a waste of time.
Like stretching, like dead hanging for X amount of time. Stretching like the teeter hang up, like you'll get temporarily like decompressed spine and stuff. And then there's like, I didn't even look to see what the workouts were because I already knew that there was like no workout that you can do post. What's the fancy word you used?
Epiphyseal plate closure.
That one. Post that, there's no way that you could get taller. So I was like, there's no point in looking into this. But I kind of wish that there was a way to do it. And this is where we'll get off into woo-woo land. I told you I'm a big believer in the power of words, right? And so there was a point a little bit before I had discovered this that I kind of went around saying this mantra over and over and over again because they're like the 5 things that I wanted most to become, right? I'm not going to say what they all were, but one of them is richest, which is still coming. Another one is taller, right? So I just kept saying that. And I was like, you know what? I believe in the power of words so much that somehow I'm going to get taller. I don't even know how. Like, it's not even like a possibility.
Is this like one of those, I've seen these YouTube audios where people will just like recite something over and over again to try and like bury it in your subconscious or something. And it'll be like really odd things that you would think are impossible.
Yes.
And crazy shit. Like, how do you become taller, become successful, become whatever, grow your dick, like crazy shit. And there'll be people in the comments that are like, I did this and it worked. I'm like, who the fuck are these people? I've almost done a reaction video to one. I actually think I might have at one point, and just to show how stupid it was. But so you, like, I don't necessarily think telling yourself goals is bad.
No.
I was more thinking that it was insane that people were reciting this stuff and thinking it was actually granting, like, imparting a magical effect, which is what it seemed to be implying it was meant to do.
Yeah.
So was this like one of those or more like a reinforcement verbal audio thing?
No. So I don't know how it works, right? I also am not like, when I say like woo-woo, I say that because I recognize that it's crazy or weird, right? But there have been many times in my life where I have said stuff with such stupid confidence and it happened. And like just totally outlandish things. And it freaking happened. And when enough of that happens, you're like, okay, there's something going on here, right? And I was very religious for the most part up until recently, and then I am now again. But very religious. So I always just assume faith, prayer, that's God, etc. Right? But it wasn't all like religious related stuff. So I heard about this chanting the mantra thing, and I'm like, sure, why not? Let's try this out. So it was more of an experiment, right? But I did believe in the power of words, and so I thought, heck, let's try it out. So I literally, for I don't know how long I did it, but I like in my mind kept reciting it as I walked. With every step, I'd say it over and over and over again. I don't do anything unless it's extreme. This is one of those cases. Literally every single step, I just kept saying it over and over again. And I added taller because I wanted to do something that was truly impossible, something that actually cannot happen, right? And then May, June, July, August, 3 months later, right? I learned that you actually can get taller. And I had forgotten about this mantra thing by then for a while, but and I was like, sure, I'll do it. That's literally it.
So how did you find out though?
Oh, I was sitting on the couch and I Googled, how do you get taller as an adult, right? And I saw,
and it was one of the first results?
the workouts and stuff, I zoomed all past that. And then I saw an article about like somebody doing surgery for it. And I'm like, oh. And I told my wife, hey, Bucky, look, it actually is possible to get taller as an adult. And she's like, oh, that's interesting.
I think I'm going to do it. Even on one of the first search result pages.
I kept scrolling.
Okay.
Yeah, I kept scrolling.
It must have been on like Google page 12 or something.
I might have been Google page 2, which might as well be 12.
Okay.
But yeah, like I just kept scrolling until I found it, right? Until I found something that wasn't, BS. And it actually wasn't, I wasn't thinking surgically. Like that wasn't even on my mind as a possibility. But then when I saw that, I was like, oh, it's possible. And then my thought process was, I wanted to get taller, sort of, I guess. Oh, there's a way to do it. Other people have done it. Okay. And then I just decided to do it. And I didn't know how I was going to afford it. I didn't know how long it was going to take or how painful it was going to be. All I knew was it's a possibility. I wanted this. I guess I should do it. And then I told my wife, and she knows very well, for good or bad, that when I decide that I'm going to do something, it kind of is just, okay, I'm going to do it. It might not be that case now, because after this, we got to give stuff more thought.
Yeah.
This was a wake up call for that way of deciding life, big life decisions. But up until that point, that's how it had always operated. It's like, yeah, decide first and then figure out how I'm going to get the money, how I'm going to survive while I'm there, how I'm going to what this is all going to entail. Right?
So how much time between learning you can do it and deciding versus it actually happening took place?
They made me wait 3 months. So 3 months.
When you say they, though, it's like...
Because they were booked out.
But you had to find out how it's conducted first and find a clinic that does it and all this stuff. Presumably that took more than 1 day.
Remember how I told you were going to judge me?
Yeah.
Judge me based off of my,
You just typed in Google, like, limb-lengthening surgery center.
I immediately started calling people. The first one I spoke to was some clinic in Turkey. And they gave me good information. But reaching my goals with them was going to be quite difficult.
You already had goals immediately?
Yeah, whatever the max was. I just figured...
just whatever it was. You didn't know what it was, though. Okay.
No. Obviously, if it was too much, I wouldn't have done it, right? Like if the max is 20, I'm like, okay, my arms aren't that long, right? It was more so the... Wait, I might be misremembering. Actually, my goal was more whatever I could do to still look proportional. And I figured that was probably around 6'4", 6'5". That was my goal, right? Yeah.
So basically you asked the first clinic, could you make me this tall? And they said, that's too much?
Well, no, I started Googling and I started seeing other people's results from other clinics. Specifically the one that I ended up going to has a lot of marketing, right? And so I kind of formed what I wanted my goal to be based off of that. But this is all in day one. I just started Googling, searching, asking how it was done, how much it would be, the risks. I mean, I did ask all the questions. I just asked them all in a very short time frame, right? And like I said, once I decide something, I'm just going to do it. So I already had in my mind, I'm doing this, so I better freaking know what I'm going to do, right? And so I just started asking everybody. I even called people in Colombia who also did this, but they only did one segment. They didn't do tibias. And I was like, oh, I want to be able to squat ass to grass. So that's not going to happen, right? And so I started.
But when you say that, you want to be able to squat ass to grass, is there a reason why would you not be able to with one segment versus both versus at a high level?
Because
actually just to start and preface this too, how is the surgery conducted? What is being broken, what's being extended, how's it work?
So when you do limb lengthening surgery, right, there's currently that I know of 3 segments that you can lengthen. You can lengthen your tibia and fibula, you can lengthen your femur, and you can lengthen your humerus, right? I've only known one person to ever lengthen their humerus, and it was a horrible experience. Absolutely horrible. I can't believe they let her do it. And then the other...
Did she have T-Rex arms to begin with?
She did, yes. Okay. Yeah, super sweet. Awesome girl. She actually did need it, but the part of me that can't believe that they let her do it was that they had her lengthen her humerus while she was simultaneously lengthening.
Oh my God. So you're just like immobile.
Yes. And it was a horrible, horrible, degrading experience for her. And it was, I was so pissed off that we were all, as patients, just pissed off that
I was in the same place you were at. So you had to like watch it.
Allegedly. Yeah, no, yeah. Yeah, it was at the same place.
Okay.
I can't believe that and at one point, like the security guard grabbed her by the fixator unwittingly, not on purpose, and broke her nail in her arm.
Dude.
Yeah. And I was like,
so what's that do? Like set you back like infinite amount of progress?
No, extreme pain, and then had to go to the hospital and fix it right away. It was obviously an accident, but like, but anyway, so you can do humerus, femur, and tibia. Most people just do the legs. And the femur is the easiest to recover from. It has more blood flow. It's only one bone. It's a big bone, but it's only one. And it's not as intrinsically, it's not as like complicated to lengthen the femur, because not compared to the tibia. The tibia is the one that, oh my gosh, dude, it's a bitch.
Is it like more nerves and stuff, or like what?
Everything. Like, had I known how difficult that was going to be, I would have either not done it or done it much differently. Like, I lengthened the tibia to over 7 centimeters in the span of 2 months. That's way, way more aggressive than I should have ever been able to do. But there's a lot of stuff that I want to say.
Yeah, we can revisit
I'm trying to think of.
Yeah. So back to the surgeries conducted by either breaking the femur or the tibia.
And fibula.
And fibula. And that's the tibia and fibula are like one and the same for that segment.
Yeah, because if you think about it, right? So here's fibula, here's tibia, right? If you just break the tibia and you lengthen it, this one's still connected. So you have to break them both in order for you to be able to lengthen the...
And then actually lengthening it, how does that occur?
There's 2 ways, internally and externally, right? There's multiple externals. The most commonly, I wouldn't say it's the most commonly used, because a lot of people do kind of the old school method. The best way to do it with an external fixator is called LON, lengthening over nail, where you have an external fixator. Have you seen the video of me lengthening my legs at the mall?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I know.
That's some viral content right there.
I know. It got a lot. And it's been shared a ton. It's crazy that I did that. Anyway, so there's an external fixator. It's both in and outside of your leg at the same time. And you're like that for months, right? It's no infection risk whatsoever. And then you have a nail that's inside. So what they do is they break your tibia and your fibula, right? And then they open up your kneecap, and then they drill the bone marrow out of your tibia. They put in a titanium nail, and then they put pins that are like almost like as thick as like my pinky, almost, and they connect the external fixator to the bone with those pins, and it's lengthening over the nail, meaning like the nail is serving as a guide, and the fixator is doing the brunt of the weight bearing. Right, but the nail is kind of serving as a guide to keep it somewhat straight. And then once you finish, you use an Allen wrench. You put an Allen wrench in the fixator, and 4 times a day, you lengthen it by 1/4 of a millimeter. So it turns out to be about 1 millimeter a day is the recommended lengthening. And you do that every day until you've reached your desired length. And then you have what's called the fixator removal surgery.
Presumably there's a limit where you should stop though, based on their recommendation. Because you said until you get where you want. Like what if you just keep going?
You can. I know a guy who...
Still going?
No. No. I know a guy who... I didn't think there were going to be that many people who did more than 7. Because when I did 7.2 is I think what I did. That's like outrageous, right? But he I think at 9. And I was like, what the heck? And he looks good and he's recovering well and he's working out, you know, but yeah, you should stop, in my opinion, at 5.
Okay.
Because literally from 0 to 5, like almost no issues, right? And then once you hit that 5 mark and you start to get equinus contracture, once you get ballerina, foot ballerina syndrome is what we call it there, dude, it makes life so much harder. And so I personally think up until tibias up until 5 is good. Then after that, it's like logarithmically more difficult, exponentially more difficult.
Don't go past 5.
That's my personal opinion, right?
Yeah.
Up until that point, it was really easy. For a lot of people that I've seen, it's not that bad. After that, you start to get ballerina or equinus contracture, and that's where your dorsiflexion is significantly inhibited, basically.
So
like
that results in what?
That, oh, hell.
Okay.
Yeah, you would think, oh, you're on your tippy toes a little bit, not a big deal, right?
Yeah.
If it gets any worse, it's absolutely miserable. So to kind of give you an example,
And why is it called ballerina feet?
because you're on your tippy toes.
Like literally you can't help yourself but be on your tippy toes?
100% correct, yes.
Dude.
It is miserable. And when you had it to the degree that I had it, so
It's like where your foot is like clenched all the time, or like
I'm
how,
trying to think if I have a picture of how bad mine was. Mine was so bad that, like, imagine this is my foot and this is my foot dorsiflexed, right?
Yeah.
Well, as much as I can. Like, that's a normal foot flat,
Yeah.
right? A little bit of ballerina, a lot. My foot was like this, where my toes, my pinky, every single toe in my foot was bent, and I couldn't make my toes straight. And it hurt if someone tried. And not only that, but it was like twisted inward too. It was like that. Like, this was my feet.
There's no way you didn't take a picture of that at some point.
I might have.
We'll,
I have to look into.
If you find it, we'll overlay it now.
Yeah, I documented so much of this. By the way, if you look through my stories on Instagram, like, you'll be able to see like the highlights. Like, I vlogged like the whole thing.
Oh,
There's probably some stuff on there that I'll probably want to delete now that I think about it, if I'm mentioning it here.
Sure.
But yeah, like, there's a lot of stuff I don't remember, but I did almost day to day, like, vlogging for a while, the whole experience. But yeah, it was so bad. Like, this was literally my feet. That the physiotherapist, some of the sessions were trying to just like get my toes used to being straight. So I had to go from that to being able to put my foot flat, and that took so long. And the reason that it got so bad was because there's so much to say. I'll keep it short. I was the heaviest person to ever do this.
Yeah. How much did you weigh when you started everything? Because presumably you lost some weight beforehand.
I lost a shit ton of weight.
And purposefully, presumably, because
Yes.
it's way more difficult to recover if you weigh 300 plus pounds than if you were whatever. I'm assuming. Like, I'm assuming it's pretty typical for guys to lose as much weight as they can before they go do this, right?
No.
Oh, really?
No. Because most guys doing this don't weigh anywhere near the level that is a problem.
Okay, but for people who have like excess weight that they could lose, they try to, presumably.
I mean, yes, but I don't know that many. Okay. I don't know. I know before me.
It's advised though, presumably.
Yes. Like,
Okay.
like if you're over 200 pounds, you don't want to weigh that much. It's much easier. It's just, I literally, like, I know over 50 people who have done this, and I can only think of like a very small handful that were over 200 pounds. Like,
and it's because so many of them presumably are doing this because they're short and want to get to a height that they're happy with, whereas you are tall going to really tall. And you're also like a genetic freak in muscle.
Yeah.
So like there's two things for you that are completely uncommon.
And work
among
against
like
me.
an already rare subsect of people.
Yeah, and they happened to work against me in this procedure. And so I lost, I was already in the process of losing weight, right? And I was telling the owner of the clinic, like, hey, everyone else tells me that weight's going to be an issue. The fixators can't handle this. And he was just like, no, it's not a problem. It's not a problem. Like, are you sure? That's awesome. because I can stay big. That's great. But I still wanted to lose a little bit of weight. So I was still kind of losing weight.
And what were you at the time?
It was a 365 maybe.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't my biggest, but it was close. But I was for a very short time because it was really hard to maintain. Breathing sucked. And so it was like, I'm there, I'm back. Like, right. Yeah. So even 365 was a lot. And I was actually trying to be big. And so it's like, if I don't try to be that big, 330 was more like sustainable. Right. But have you, can I show you?
Sure.
So this was the before. Did you see the before and after before? Like of the weight loss?
Maybe, probably.
I archived it, but maybe I'll unarchive it. I archived it because one of the pictures is in my underwear. I don't really.
Dude, bodybuilders post that shit all the time.
Yeah, but
they will literally post glute shots purposefully
to
show how shredded they are.
Yeah, but I'm not a bodybuilder.
You've never tried to? Okay.
No, I've never really wanted to be a bodybuilder because that would require looks. Like that'd be the focus would be on looks. I never really cared about that as a primary. I always cared about, I just wanted to be strong. And in the process of getting strong, I realized, I keep getting bigger. Yeah. By the way, this, and we can overlay this was the rendering that I had made for myself to kind of see if I would still look okay.
And how did you mock that up?
Some online like picture editor.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like canva.com for
PicMonkey is what I used.
Oh
yeah.
my God.
Yeah. So that's the before and after. So it was like 365 to 275.
Damn, dude.
And so I had to lose. He said that 120 kilograms was the most that I could weigh before he would agree to do the surgery.
What'd you have to do to lose it? Did you have to?
So let me finish telling this part. So
Sure.
He kept saying, it's not a problem. It's not a problem. The owner of the facility.
Based on no experience of having somebody like you.
Exactly. And that went on for a long time because I had to wait 3 months, right? A month and a half in, I finally had my first call with the doctor. And the doctor, when I mentioned my weight, he says, whoa, what? And then the guy is still saying, it's not going to be a problem. And he's like, no, he cannot weigh more than, and he has to think about it because he hasn't had to think about like the upper limits before. And he said, and 120. I just remember he got to that number, 120. So I said, okay, so if I lose this much weight by then, you'll do the surgery. And he's like, well, yes, but it's like done. And he's like, you're going to lose, what was it? It was an average of like 2 pounds a day. It was something ridiculous. It was like a kilogram a day because I was at 365. I'd already lost a little bit, maybe like 350 something. And I had to get down to 275. And I had 90 days to do it. So it's like, how am I going to do this? I don't care. I said I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And I literally just, you said, how did I do it? I went on Muscle for Life Fitness, used his little TDR, what's the acronym for your daily?
Total daily, TDEE, total daily energy expenditure?
Yes, it called it something else, but that's what it was, yes. Calculator, right? And
BMR calculator?
No, I swear.
We know what you're talking about.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, we used a little calculator, right? And then I'm like, okay, well, I need to lose this much weight at this level. It says like, you just chop
1,000 calories off your diet or something?
Thousands. I went down to 2250 a day.
And you were at like bulk calories of 5,000 or something?
Yeah. I was like, for my maintenance, I had to like eat at least 5,000 calories. It was something ridiculous.
So you probably lost quite a bit pretty quick though then.
I did. And at first I started crashing my blood sugar almost daily. I was throwing up. I was going into like sweat mode. Like
hypoglycemia.
Yes, it was horrible, dude. It was horrible. Everyone was telling me, stop. You stop. What are you doing to yourself? I'm like, oh, I have to. It's like, otherwise I can't get my surgery to break my legs. And it's I don't know what the heck I was thinking. But like I said, when I decided to do something, I do it. And it was miserable. And so at first I started losing over 2 pounds on average, and then it tapered off to about 1 pound on average towards the end, right? And so I went down to 275. But even at that weight, I was still the heaviest person to do this, at least that they've ever heard of, and they do the most of these surgeries.
At the time, were you on like a bulk cycle of steroids, or were you like on TRT, or did you even use hormones, or?
I did use hormones, but when you say at the time, are you talking about when I was
like because you weighed a lot and you were trying to lose a ton of weight? So I was just wondering if prior to the losing weight at your, one of your highest body weights where you were trying to be huge, were you on a significant amount of stuff that you then were able to leverage weight loss out of pulling that down too?
I was at 500 tests a week, yeah.
Okay.
And for me, that's a lot. It's not the most, but that's like if I'm on that and I work out and I eat, I'm going to be big. For me, a lot's like 750. And then what I take now is 250.
So did you drop the dose when you wanted to lose weight, or you left it at 500? Quick interruption to bring you a note from another sponsor of today's pod. This is Gorilla Mind, my sports nutrition, innovative pre-workouts, nootropics, performance and health supporting formulations, energy drinks company. What are things that I take every single day without fail and would take essentially regardless of my age as well? If I'm a teenager trying to reach max height, or I'm an adult trying to optimize muscle strength, bone integrity, recovery, neurological health, or I'm even in older age and I'm trying to stave off injury, maintain muscle, etc., be as vital and athletic and capable of a human as I can possibly be, and stave off any sort of debilitating injuries. That's where these things come in, because they're very difficult to get through your diet. Those things include protein powder, having a high quality protein powder that you actually want to consume and tastes amazing. And also third-party testing on the product page. You can actually see the composition of the macronutrients yourself, which I don't see a lot of companies doing. And it also works well in baking creamy ice creams, just drinking it straight with water in all situations works well. That's Gorilla Mode protein. Love this stuff. And it would be very difficult to hit my grams in protein goal per day if I did not have this. Just candidly, straight up, it's very difficult for me to hit my body weight in grams of protein per day without using some sort of supplement. In addition, something else that would be impossible for me to saturate muscle stores and get the full cognitive benefits of otherwise, creatine monohydrate. This is something that a lot of people don't realize. You can and should be supplementing at essentially any age. The likelihood that you have saturated stores of this is very low, unless you are a heavy, red meat connoisseur and you're eating multiple pounds a day. The likelihood you're getting the full benefits of it via your diet and your endogenous creatine synthesis is low. And for somebody like myself who has impaired methylation capacity through genetic predispositions, even more critical that I'm using this, not just for performance, but for health. And if I knew how impactful creatine was and all the emerging literature on brain health, development, muscle strength, recovery, potentially even myostatin inhibition, which is, there's some fringe literature that is less relevant, but still interesting nonetheless. At the end of the day, this is one of the only tried and true supplements that across the board is essentially a no-brainer for 9 out of 10, 99% even potentially of people. And this includes teenagers. I absolutely would have been taking this when I was a teenager if I knew how impactful it was and how not problematic it would be to be taking. In addition, multivitamin. This is our elite multivitamin and is crafted through many years of me, mixing different things together through what I would consider to be the optimal dosages from single ingredient products to make like the ultimate multivitamin. When I was younger, there was very few formulations on the market that actually hit all the bases of what I needed in the formats that I wanted with bioactive B vitamins. Everything was balanced in correct ratios that I felt was the most favorable for what I needed. like ultimately this is the assimilation of many years of research in one turnkey multivitamin product. Is this a necessity in contrast to protein and creatine? I would say no. However, for me, this is like the insurance policy for backfilling micronutrients, because most people are deficient in one or several micronutrients, and having that insurance policy to me gives the peace of mind that whatever holes my diet has, I'm not gonna have to go over my calorie limit, having a bunch of weird fringe foods that are nutrient dense to try and hit my needs, when I could otherwise backfill with this and not have to overeat in foods that I don't necessarily want to be overeating on a daily basis, or having to like rigorously document my diet constantly through Chronometer to ensure that it is dialed, when I have a relatively flexible diet model that works for me to maintain what I consider to be a good body composition for my goals right now. So anyway, you know, just having this as a baseline insurance policy to me is worthwhile, and I like multivitamins for that purpose personally. I don't think they're a make or break, but they are certainly helpful and can be very impactful if you have a deficiency. Some nutrients are insanely problematic to be deficient in, to where you could be like night and day quality of life difference or performance difference depending on what it is. But insurance policy, not necessary, but I would consider a staple nonetheless. Last one, omega-3 elixir. Almost every single, well, not every single person, depending on how much fish you eat, but the majority of individuals are omega-3 deficient. You can actually fact check this by getting an omega-3 index assessed via a blood work service like Marek Health. And you actually fact check if you are deficient in this or not by assessing the omega-3 content of your red blood cells. And most people are deficient, and the risk of cardiovascular disease is significantly higher in those who are omega-3 deficient. And personally, I don't like fish. I'm not going to eat fish. I also, am relatively cognizant of the, heavy metal status of fish nowadays. And I don't want to worry about all that. I don't want to be allocating my, meat intake or any of my calories at all to having fish, to be honest. If you want to do that and you can get your omega-3s through that, fantastic. But for me, I rely on this. This is our high quality omega-3 formula that also has the test results on the product page. You can see the omega-3 content. You can see the rancidity and oxidation scores and contrast it to competitors and see where they stand. Most don't publish them at all. And it's also in the most ideal format for omega-3s and has other complementary antioxidants that can otherwise attenuate the oxidation potential of the formula. In my opinion, it is the most comprehensive, or at least among the top in quality when it comes to omega-3 formulas and what I use now. Those 4 items in particular, I would not stop taking essentially ever unless I overdid it in omega-3s and needed to like reel down because I was worried about, palpitations or something. But in general, like I'm going to be on these every single day, probably for the rest of my life. And if I was a teenager as well, I would have loved to have been ensuring I was saturating my creatine stores, not nutrient deficient in any micros, and hitting my protein needs. I don't know how much height I could have, eked out if I had proper protein intake for my entire adolescence, or muscle growth potential. That would have been nice to have at the time too. Bone integrity, whatever it may be. GorillMind.com, link in description below if you want to check it out. You can use code MPMD to save 10%. And back to our regularly scheduled programming.
I went to my guy and I said, hey, I need to lose weight. What do I do? And he told me what to do. And I'm trying to remember now what that was. Because I don't know crap about...
Your guys is like your friend who knows about hormones kind of thing?
He actually lent me the money to do this.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. He spotted me half of my... Yeah.
What's the full cost of the endeavor?
Retail or what I paid?
Both.
So at the time that I got this quoted, it was 25 for LON. It's 38 now.
Okay.
So
partly because of you, probably.
No. Oh, no.
Like popularity and stuff.
Oh, I mean, I'm sure that I did. I hate to think of it, but I know I brought them a lot of business because when I went there, when I went there the most recent time to take care of my staph infection, which we'll get into, gosh, it was miserable. I met a lot of people that were like, hey, we're here because of you. And I'm like, oh no, what have I done? And I love these people. I love all of them. And so many people online, talk to me too. And I was like, oh wow, I have influence. This is not good. And that's part of why I'm just also wanting to stay away from social media for a while, because I'm like, I don't know, I don't want to recommend something that like, I don't want to be someone that people look up to and say, I want to do this because of you.
Right.
And I'm like I had the courage to do this. I'm like, no, let me get through this first and let me give you a real,
unbiased assessment
exactly.
once you've done the whole thing.
Yeah. And so that's kind of part of what I want to do here is just let people know exactly what happened. But help me go back to what were we talking about?
So you lost a bunch of weight. Your guy spotted you for half the cost of the surgery, and the retail cost was $25,000 at the time
per LON segment.
Okay.
So I initially was going to do LON on tibia and then wait and then do LON on femur. That was the goal. I had chosen to do it that way because if I did tibia first and then I changed my mind and didn't want to do femur, I figured, okay, I can at least squat, right? Because the mechanics would allow me to squat to depth with slightly longer tibias, but not if I had slightly longer femurs.
How did you figure out these biomechanical differences, by the way?
Googling.
Okay.
Yeah, I Googled mechanics. Squat U guy talked a lot about how why some people can't squat to depth the same as other people. It has to do with if you have longer tibias versus femurs. And so I kind of just put two and two together and figured, okay, if I'm going to make because I was always a great squatter. Like that was one thing that just kind of, it's like, I'm really good at this, and I didn't want to lose that, at least the ability to squat to depth. Obviously, I'd probably not made me squat the same amount, but whatever. So that was the plan. Do tibias first and then femurs. And then shit hit the fan because stuff started going horribly wrong on tibias. The whole thing, the infection, the being in a wheelchair because I had so going back to being the heaviest person to do this, the fixators, as they were put on me, couldn't handle my weight. And they encourage you to walk all the time.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to because it didn't feel right. Yeah. But they insisted. And eventually something snapped that wasn't supposed to snap. Oh. Yeah. And it hurt it hurt.
You can swear.
It hurt like a bitch, dude. It hurt so bad. It was like, oh, wow. This fracture hurt more than the original fracture.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I just remember going like this, for hours. It's like a little bitch, just like, because the pain was so much. I actually had people rubbing it because it gave me like a 10% alleviation of pain. Yeah. And just other patients were like helping me feel, it was so freaking bad. It was so miserable. And then eventually they got an x-ray done because they're like, okay, this is a painful surgery, but you shouldn't be like this. Yeah. And then they discovered, oh, you need surgery. I'm like, oh, great. Okay. And then after that surgery, I wasn't allowed to put weight on it anymore for obvious reasons. Yeah. And so that's when I was in a wheelchair. And the reason I mentioned that is because when you're in a wheelchair and you still lengthen your tibias, you no longer have the benefit of forcing dorsiflexion every day when you walk. So it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And that's why I had such horrible dorsiflexion when I finished.
So they encourage you to continue progressing even if you're unable to walk on it the way you would need to?
Oh, I will be fair on this. I mean, I was going to continue anyway. Yeah. Yeah. So I didn't continue because they encouraged me. I continued because I have a goal. Right. And I guess I have to do this way.
You're trying to keep up with like the schedule of extensions.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Gotcha. So, but anyway, so the goal was tibia first, then femur, both of them LON. After I did the tibia with LON, it became very clear that I was going to have a problem with doing LON with external fixators for my femurs because I was in a wheelchair. And the wheelchair is about as wide as this chair. And the wheels come up to here and the external fixators come out to here. Mm-hmm. So if you just do the math, there's no room for the fixators in a wheelchair.
Right.
And I can't walk. So how am I going to use the bathroom? How am I going to get around? How am I going to do anything? I can't. So my good friend and I started looking for maybe seat cushions that could raise me above where the level of the wheels are. Or the biggest issue is going to be how am I going to get to the bathroom because a wide wheelchair won't fit in through those bathroom doors. And so we started looking for like portable bathroom. Like we were exhausting every solution that we could possibly find to try to figure out how I was going to do LON in my current condition. And there wasn't one, right? And so the only option was to go and use Precise, which is the internal method, but that's way more expensive. At that time, that was $68,000 versus the 25 that I had quoted.
Jeez.
So it's like, well, shoot, I had to borrow money to do this. And I'm working while I'm there. I'm still doing loans. I'm still doing people's mortgages, right? Yeah. And doing other stuff as well to try to get money to fund myself while I'm doing this. And so I was like, I can't afford that. What am I going to do? You know? And so I got another friend of mine to lend me the money. And this was more so because of safety, because they knew that I was going to do LON and I was going to put myself in a shitty position. Because at that time I was so crazy still that I was going to do it no matter what, because I said I was going to do it, right? That they were like, nope, I'm not letting you. So they spotted me the difference, and they basically paid. And honestly, that probably saved my life because given what happened afterwards, it really could have actually saved my life. So I got it internally. So I was able to do the internal Precise. And so answering your question of how much it costs at that time, with those retail prices, it would have been 25 plus 68,000, which is 73 plus 20, 93,000, right? But the cost of that today would be 38 plus 68, which would be, it'd be over $100,000, right? Yeah. And so, but I only put in 25,000 of my own money because the rest was my friends either spotting me or loaning me.
Gotcha.
And so, yeah, that was it was a bitch.
I can imagine.
Yeah, dude. I was in this position of total vulnerability that I put myself in, and I put my family in a horrible position, because while I was there, the very first month that I was there, and I'm like unable to do anything about it, we had one of the worst freezes in history in Georgia, and my house, the pipes froze, and when our air conditioning broke, our heater broke, and it was Christmas Day, and on Christmas Day, there was no water, no power, there was no heating, right? And then the next morning, the ceiling, because our pipes are in the ceiling, our ceiling fell down.
Oh my God, dude.
Yeah, and it flooded, and it just became this gigantic disaster that I had now left my wife to deal with our 2 children alone without me, while I went off and broke my fucking legs in a foreign country for some stupid reason that I can't even really articulate. Like, I was like, oh no, I'm a piece of shit and I need to help my wife, and I'm here. Like, and so I started calling everybody, the insurance company. I tried to figure it all out as I could. But like, yeah, it was a miserable experience, and we eventually got it sorted out. We overpaid for it because I wasn't there to negotiate. But like, this whole thing has just been a miserable freaking experience from beginning to end. Yeah, I kind of went off on a tangent there.
No, it's okay. Yeah, we should revisit that part of the horrible experience. But prior to getting there, how do you even end up in this place that's away from the States to begin with? Because presumably there's, like you mentioned, how the vetting process was not that rigorous. You
For me, it wasn't,
called around and saw who would do it. And was it that there was no domestic viable surgeons that would do it, or they were too expensive, or like what usually leads to this like medical tourism of the limb lengthening versus staying in the States?
So there's a few things. One of them is the price, and that's probably the biggest one, right?
What's the difference in general?
So at the time that I did the research, the price difference was for one segment about $76,000 in the US.
Ooh.
Big difference, right?
So 3x.
And 25 foreign. And before that, the 25 was after a price increase. It used to be 20. And then I believe before that it was 18. So like it had been historically very cheap in Turkey, but they got hit with a lot of inflation. They had to, everyone started raising prices, but still there was a big difference in the price. So that's one. The other is method, right? So LON, the external fixator, is riskier, but there's a benefit to it. And that one benefit is you can go longer. So with the Precise, it's an internal, it's safer, but it's A, not load bearing, meaning that you're not supposed to be walking around on it. And two, you can only go up until like there's a limit to how much the nail will go. They'll only let you go to 8, right? In Turkey, they do LON, which you can go up to 11, you can go up to 12. You can go like, obviously that's the most that I've ever heard of anyone going that I know personally is just over 11. So that's a big difference between 8, limit and 11. So some people will do the riskier, harder, surgery just to get that difference. So that's the other reason is the method. And then the other thing is they have packages in a lot of these clinics, including the one that I have, where it's like the stay, the physical therapy, the medicine, and the surgery. And in this particular clinic, they also cover follow-up surgeries. So if you're limited on money, that's very appealing. And that's why I ended up going there. Because, what if stuff happened afterwards? They cover it. And to their defense, they covered everything. They did a lot of shit that I am upset about, but they did cover it. And they had you could stay at their hotel, so it was just the package. That's the main reason why I think a lot of people choose places like that, is because it's all in one. It's like a
versus in the States, you would get it done, they just send you home kind of thing.
I mean, they take care of you, right? But you're paying for every little thing. I don't know if you ever, like, when you go to you're Canadian.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, here in the States, if you go to the hospital and you get a Motrin, it's $80. It's like, they'll nickel and dime you for every single little thing. And that's just the healthcare system in general here. So yeah, if you get it done here, you need medication, you pay for that medication separately. You need physical therapy, you're paying for it separately. You have complications, you need follow-up, you're gonna have to pay for that if you want, so it adds up.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure in Canada that would not be free though.
Because it's elective, right?
Yeah. That would be wild if like taxpayer money was going towards people getting taller or like covering their meds and stuff.
That's a good point.
Joe Rogan actually told me yesterday that apparently my tax money has been going to paying for some dude to make breast milk in Canada. And I was like, what the fuck is going on up there, dude? But anyways, that's besides the point. So these clinics that now exist, this is kind of news to a lot of people probably that they even exist. How long has this, like, I wouldn't expect a history lesson here, but just like high level, how long have these been around? Is this like actual refined technology that's been around for decades and we just are hearing about it now because of viral social media stuff and most people want to stay under wraps with their surgeries? Or like, what is kind of, I don't know, some background?
So a little bit of both, right? So it has been around for a very long time. I'm not talking about the clinics, talking about the actual procedure of limb lengthening. Is actually quite like, I want to say old, but it's decades, like multi-decades. Like,
when was the first one? Do you know?
That's the part of the history lesson. I don't actually know. I probably should have looked that up, but no, it's a long time ago that they started doing this, but it was mostly done for deformities. So
yeah, I feel like it's probably worth stating as a preface too that some people are doing this because of deformities or evening out, abnormalities or what have you. It's not just like pure superficial cosmetic. I want to be taller. It's also to like just feel normal because you've had something really off for your whole life, right?
Yeah, it's actually covered by insurance if you here in the States, if you're getting it done for a deformity, but you're only getting it done on the one leg that's short. So, sorry.
So you wouldn't be able to get it covered if you were at the place you were at, though?
No, of course not. No, not for cosmetic.
Even if you had a deformity, though?
No.
Like, I'm assuming the Turkish clinic would not, like, work with the... Got it.
No. And a lot of people... a lot of people I know that get it done there actually have like a deformity that they're getting fixed, and they're like, well, I might as well get taller as I'm doing it, you know? And
it's like a gateway surgery.
yeah. But we were talking about
like the decision to go domestic versus international. It sounds like it's an all-inclusive sort of deal, kind of thing. So that was the appeal. So you end up at this place that presumably was one of the first all-inclusive options that would give you the height you wanted, was affordable, did the technique you wanted, and would take care of kind of like turnkey it, essentially.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It was turnkey. It's like they know. So the guy who started it, he was a patient himself, right? And he had the surgery done, and he had, was it 18 or 20 centimeters, like total, between 3 surgeries. And so very familiar with it. And then he started his own clinic. Their marketing is very good. And I don't say that as a compliment, but their marketing is very good.
Would we say good or effective? Or I guess that's maybe one and the same for that.
That's how I meant the word good.
Yeah,
it's very effective.
Right.
Yeah. And in fact,
it's quite enticing.
Yeah. And
because candidly, at least for me, I have only seen, I don't know, 1 or 2 companies maybe who've had any marketing material that's actually reached outside of probably their immediate like target demo, I suppose. And it seems like they are hitting a lot of people hard, whereas other clinics either don't do any advertising like that, or I don't know. Yeah, like it almost reminds me of there's certain Turkish hair transplant clinics that you'll hear of, like one in particular. It's like, oh, only one exists there, and there's tons. But this one is just like super aggressive about how they go about marketing, and they'll recruit tons of fitness influencers who are balding from steroid use and stuff, and just say, hey, we'll cover your whole surgery if you come here, all expenses paid. You just got to show up and say good things, and then
I've got some thinning hair.
You could make another trip. Yeah. Should have done it at the same time. Yeah,
I thought about it. Some people did, by the way.
I bet.
I know multiple people who did it while they were lengthening legs, not after they were done lengthening.
Just go down the street, get rolled down there, and get your hair done at the same time. So that process, though, I know a lot of people get it paid for entirely as long as they talk positively about it on social media, even if they end up with a crooked hairline or it looks like shit. And sometimes that is the case. And I've never seen somebody speak poorly about it after the fact. And I'm assuming it's because they're bound to some contractual agreement and you're not going to shit talk the company that gave it to you for free. Does that happen ever? Or is it more like they use the best results of their patients to showcase, like, this is what you can expect, and then they won't show you the bad stuff?
A combination of both, but not the first one, definitely not how you would think. So here's what's the most common. Well, I'll just speak to my case, right? And then I know some other examples. So for me, I got quoted the price of $25K, and that was the price for 2022. But I was going in at the end of 2022, and I couldn't pay for both surgeries up front. I'm trying to make sure I speak correctly here. Yeah. So
both surgeries we're talking about.
Femur.
Yeah, but you didn't even know if you were going to do femur yet, right?
Oh, I had planned to. Yeah, I was just...
It was contingent on the first one going well, though. Okay, got it.
Exactly. So yeah, $25K was per surgery was what I was quoted. But because I wasn't having them done both at the same time, even if I paid them at the same time, I believe this is what happened. I had to pay whatever the price was at the time that I did the second surgery. So even if I paid up front now, I would have to pay whatever the new price was. And I was like, well, that sucks. I can't do that. And so I made a deal, and I told them, hey, you guys could use my face, my likeness, whatever. I promise, trust me, it'll get viral. It just will, because it's just trust me, right? I think I said it just like that. But could you please quote me for the second surgery at today's prices? And so that was agreed upon. That was the extent of my discount. It was just me being able to lock in the price at the day that I got there instead of the day that I got the second surgery. No contractual obligation to not speak ill, no, nothing like that.
They definitely got their money's worth though, out of using your face.
Yeah, no, they did. But again, I kind of had a feeling that I was probably going to want to make this public. I didn't want to, but that in the back of my mind, I was already thinking, maybe I should be public about this because I'm kind of scared.
Yeah.
I want this to go well. But I don't have any contractual agreement with them. Now, other people have been offered, how do I say this so that I don't allegedly, other people have allegedly been offered free nail removal, which is thousands of dollars worth of free surgery in order to be able to use their, marketing, their likeness and story and marketing.
Do they selectively ask people who are having the best results kind of thing? Or what's the process of obviously any marketing material is going to be handpicked of their best candidates, presumably. I
don't actually know that they do that. Oh,
really?
I don't actually know that they do, because it's really anybody who's willing to show their face in their stories is going to be good. Because I'll tell you why it always ends up being rosy, why you only ever see the good parts. I'll tell you that in a little bit, but they don't pre-select it that way. Not to my
so few people are willing to put their face behind it that they're just happy if they get anyone, kind of thing.
But it's been getting more recent. At the time that I did it, it was very rare.
Right.
And then I convinced my friend Denzel to do it. And then this other guy, Leon, from Germany, he started doing it. And we kind of all did it at the same time. And it was during that time that the popularity of my clinic kind of just started growing exponentially. And
Denzel is also known as Mr. Broken Bones, right?
He changed his Instagram handle too. There's a pattern to us wanting to not be known only for having done this.
Right. Fair enough. Yeah. Well, for him, it's probably harder to get away from it because he's been on mainstream news platforms and stuff. And I don't know.
He went on a tirade for a while. They even went
on a first date with him. That was crazy. Have you seen that one?
I was in it.
Yeah, you were at the end of the video, but I didn't know if you knew that they filmed his date.
Yeah. The date was after.
They're so what do you think about him being taller now or whatever to the chick? So it's cool.
Yeah. No, I love that guy. He's awesome. But yeah, he went on a tirade for a while of and then after a while it's you do kind of I sympathize, yeah, maybe I don't want to be known for this because there's a lot more to me than just this, but now this is what everyone's going to see when they Google my name,
So Denzel lives pretty damn close to here.
Yeah, he does.
Which is a weird coincidence. Where you met each other in person for the first time at this clinic and just kind of got to talking about your background and you just happened to be within spitting distance of each other?
Pretty much. Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what happened. And more coincidence to that is we ended up being roommates. So
by random assignment?
No, not by random assignment. Because what happened was you don't have roommates there.
Okay.
Because of infection risk, right?
Okay.
So ideally, everyone's separate in their own environment. But because, you don't want to spread stuff like that. But the way that we met was we had this karaoke night, right? They used to have events there, every once in a while. And we had a karaoke night. And I like to fast rap, right? It's fun. And it's this party trick that I like to do. And so I did that there. And he's an actual rapper. Mm-hmm. He actually made a song for me and my wife that I gave to her, kind of like a song finch, but more personalized because I had my friend make it for me.
Okay.
And he's really good. And he did one of his songs on the karaoke night. And I was like, I like you. He was like, I like you. We're friends now. That's essentially what happened. And then when one of the really cool rooms opened up where it's like a cohabitating room where, they have a really nice living room, I wanted it. And so they gave it to me. But I had to find somebody to partner up with to have the other one. And so I chose him. And so that's kind of how we became roommates. And then we became really close, because we'd be talking all the time. We'd tell each other like our insecurities, what led us to do this. It's very painful. So like, we console each other and stuff. And we'd watch scary movies like almost every night. And so, because I don't get to watch scary movies at home because my wife's against it. So like I took that opportunity to just binge all of the scary movies that I could. So we just became really close friends that way.
Cool. What was his before and after stats? He started at 5'5". Forget.
I think he was.
I feel like he said publicly he's gained more height than you even.
I think so. Yeah.
Like he went from 5'5", if I recall correctly, to 6 feet supposedly.
I think so. I think he did because I think it was 7 inches what he gained.
Now is that like the most extreme of people at the clinic, or up there with the top, or?
It's up there because if you're not including the actual owner of the clinic, I think that's around the most. People don't really get over 15 or 16. I don't even know anyone who has actually done 16 centimeters. Maybe I'll fact check him on that. I don't know if he's gotten.
Like, do you think he just wants to say 6 feet because it's cleaner, or was it maybe like a misprint by an article, or?
I know there's a lot of misprints by articles.
Yeah, so I think one said you gained like 9.5 inches or something crazy.
Yeah,
but you were saying you were 9 inches taller now than your wife, and then they took that and made it like a headline that was incorrectly misinterpreting you.
Yeah, they also, if you look how much I paid for the surgery, it's all over the place too. Yeah, and some articles say I'm 6'7", and when I clearly had said no, that's the most I think that I would potentially go to, right? So I don't really know. I think he went from 5'6" to 6 foot.
Okay.
I think, but I mean, now I'm going to ask him after this.
And he is happy with the decision. Like, he seemed to be, at least on the interviews from a year ago. And like, how's it been for him since?
So he's doing really well.
Okay.
I don't know how his bone consolidation is, and neither does he, because he hasn't gotten a single x-ray since he left the clinic.
Oh, damn. Are you supposed to like get them locally, or do you fly back there and have them assessed?
Get them locally, yeah.
Okay, and then you send them to them, or you just get it assessed by somebody here?
You usually send it to them.
Okay.
I don't, because I'm kind of just
done with them.
Done, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, you get it assessed. But having done this for so long, we kind of get to, like, I know how the x-rays are supposed to look.
Right.
So I kind of just look at them myself. I don't even send them to a doctor.
It's like there's bone there or it's not, and it's either aligned or it's not kind of thing.
Well, actually, I do send it to a doctor in Baltimore, Dr. Asayag. He and I kind of became Instagram friends.
Okay.
And I show, like, every time that I'm worried about something, I'll be like, am I okay? Am I dying? Like, is my bone never going to heal? Like, any insecurity that I have, is my infection coming back? Like, it's so many freaking scary things. I just send it to him, and he'll help me figure out what to do.
Damn. So we got to talk about how that came to be. So you're, in this clinic now. You've, made a good friend who happens to live here. You're both doing pretty aggressive surgery. So you get your tibias done first.
Yeah.
And that goes not well.
It doesn't go, it's not optimal. No. It goes suboptimally.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it is what it is. It happened, right? And so then after that, I got the femurs done.
And this is like, so you get it done, it snaps, you're in a wheelchair, you are still manually cranking the thing to keep on schedule with the height velocity that you want to get by a certain date, at the expense of this like ballerina foot situation that's going on.
Yeah.
And we're at the tail end of that. Do you like reach the max out point of the tibia and your feet are just mangled, and now you're what happens at this point?
Then they remove it.
Okay.
And they remove the fixator, and then they lock in the nail so that it's like now the nail is what's holding me instead of the fixator holding me intact.
And I guess we failed to mention that what actually happens once they separate the area, you're supposed to have new bone literally form in the space, correct?
It's biological keep away, right? You ever play keep away where it's monkey in the middle?
No.
Oh, so it's like there's 3 people, 2 people are throwing. Like,
Okay.
Every time someone gets close to the other one, you throw it back, right? So like what I mean by biological keep away is you've got your bone, you broke it, right? You were right here. It's starting to grow. It's like, oh, as soon as it gets close to growing, you go a little bit further away. And now it's and so every time, you just get a little further away and it's trying to catch up to you and you're just like fucking with it.
Right.
Yeah. And so that's essentially what's happening is if you go too fast, then it won't be able to, you risk non-union, which is where you're screwed because the bone just isn't going to heal. Now
what
have
do you do
to
then?
Some other, depending on how bad it is,
just screw it back in place and hope everything.
Yeah. So I actually have a friend who same clinic as me, who is dealing with that problem. There's quite a decent number of people that deal with this problem because.
What's the prevalence of non-union among people who get this done?
I don't know the statistic. I know anecdotally it's not as uncommon as I
Well, it's
would
like this
it
is
to
the
be.
statistic. There's not going to be a real study on this. So like of what you see, you knew 50 people who've done this.
Yeah, at least.
How many of them have had major issues with non-union?
So people who have had fear of non-union, I'd probably say over 5, right? But who have actually like not been able to get past it without intervention, in my mind, I think of 2. And I know them very well. And that's probably why I know of the issue. I'm sure there's more within the people that I know.
Yeah.
But they were like really close to me. One of them got it solved. And then the other one is still working on it. Yeah.
What is the solving? Like some sort of manual fusion technique?
So there's, they'll recommend, so it goes in order of ascending effectiveness. Bone reaming, I think it's what it's called, where they like will, at least at this clinic, what they'll do is they'll take the nail out and then they'll like stimulate the bone from the inside using like the drill, like kind of just like, I think reaming is the word that they use.
Okay.
But yeah, they stimulate it and then they put a nail back in, right? And that's supposed to like help stimulate. I don't know how effective it is. I don't even think they know how effective that is. I haven't actually seen anybody do that and then been like, oh, it worked, right? Then there's bone graft, which is they can either put some like some of your own bone, like they'll take like a piece of your hip bone, and put it there, or like my friend had, which is they injected some substance that I don't know if it's actual bone or if it's bone-like and it just stimulates. And that's what he had done. And then there's, I don't know how many other things there are to do, but I know that there's an extreme one where it's like they just put the bone back together and then they let it heal. And then if you want to get that height back, you're just going to have to do it all over again and do it slower.
Okay, so you were at Tibia, problems, ballerina foot. You are on to the next surgery at this point, even though you haven't recovered?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did they advise against it, or like what's the current status of, advisement, or what's it look like?
Well, you can tell that by the way that the first one had gone. It went from like, yeah, go ahead and do it to, your height now is good, right? But
so where were you at after the tibia? 6'3"?
Yes, but here's the problem. I didn't care about the height as much at that point. What I cared about was that I had incredibly long tibias and short femurs, and I had done it. I had I didn't think it was going to be that big of a difference, right? Like,
so visually seeing it, you're like, oh, this is
Yeah.
kind of odd and wasn't what I envisioned.
Exactly. So like that contingency that I had where it's like, oh, at least if I do tibias first, not everything goes well. I don't have to do femurs. I kind of went out the window when I realized I look funky. Like, this looks bad.
So your pick monkey thing didn't work.
Well, no, the pick monkey was with both of them.
You didn't do an in-between?
No, because my level of foresight's limited.
That's crazy, dude. Okay, so you're like, I need the femur surgery too now, which is to get the full max out of 6'6", or what is like the target end goal at that point?
At that point, it was really just...
however much evens it out, or?
Yeah, like, so it would have depended on if I did LON or if I did precise.
Right.
So I ended up going with precise. With precise, it's supposed to be much easier. So I might as well max it out because I'm going to be in a wheelchair anyway.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about load bearing, right? And so I figured might as well get the most out of it, right? But damn, I really wanted to see my family. And now that I had an internal nail, I'm like, I could just lengthen at home. So I took the magnet thing with me and I flew home for a month, for my birthday month, my anniversary month, my kid's birthday. So like May is where we have all of the celebrations. So for May, I went home. This leg didn't lengthen.
So wait, so how deep are we into this? So you get to this place in, when was it? December of
2022.
Okay, so we're like 4 months in, you've already done your full tibia procedure, or?
So I did the tibia in 2 months. So from December to January, January to February, it was sometime in early or mid-February that I had already removed my fixators. So in fact, I think it was 2 months and 2 days because it was February 4th that I had finished lengthening. And I think on February 4th is when I removed my tibia fixators.
And is that a typical time frame, or is that like an accelerated time frame?
It was accelerated by a bit.
Okay.
Typically 3 months is like the package length.
Yeah.
So 2.5 months plus like the recovery. Yeah, it was accelerated, but I mean, I didn't do it that much faster. I was surprised at how much I had actually lengthened because I had done 1 millimeter a day, but then they let me speed up. And then, so I was doing 1.5 on other days. But yeah, it was definitely faster than the normal.
And when is it supposed to be like the bone when they remove the thing, has bone already filled in the space, or it's like?
Some.
Okay.
Some, we call it, in the States, they call it regenerate. Over there, they call it the callus. It's kind of like a pre-bone substance.
Okay.
It's like jelly gooey, and then it'll eventually, solidify and calcify, and then it keeps calcifying until it's as strong as the surrounding bone.
And that happens in the 9 months thereafter, or like
No, for it to like truly be as hard as the surrounding bone, it takes years.
Okay.
But you get to 80% quickly.
But like the space being filled, I mean, is like...
Oh, the space being filled? Dude, I've seen some people who never get it filled.
Oh.
And then I've seen some people who got it filled in like what the hell? How did that even happen? Like,
right.
Just absurdly fast. Like not even following any of the rules where you're not supposed to smoke, not supposed to have caffeine, not supposed to... They say fuck it to all the rules, and they healed perfectly like Wolverine, right? And then you've got other people who are doing everything by the book, and it's like, do something. Like why are you not healing? I'm somewhere in the middle. But yeah, it's crazy. Genetics just.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's the same reason people could eat perfectly and take all the steroids in the world, and they still won't look like you natural. Same kind of deal.
Yeah, I would like some Superman bone healing genetics right now, though.
Yeah, but you have to contend with your body mass too. So maybe you do have that proportional to the average person. So anyway, we have the tibia thing done, or at least at the stage that it's been maxed out to the point that you would do it. Thing's been removed. You're coming home now after getting the femur surgery done. and they're now telling you, okay, well, you got to do the screwing of the femur.
It's not screwing of the femur because it's internal.
All right.
Yeah. So on this one, what we have is this device, very loud device and heavy, just a magnet, right, on steroids. You put that over your leg. You have some like marker on your leg to remind you where to put it. And then you have to keep like making sure that it doesn't rub off. So like you always want to know where those marks are so that you can put that device on there. And then you just, for minutes at a time, you just sit there while it, and that's how you're lengthening your leg. The magnet is basically doing something with the nail inside your femur and like making it lengthen little by little.
So you're able to bring this magnet device with you back here?
Yeah, in like its own suitcase. Yeah.
How was that getting it through customs?
It was a medical thing.
Okay.
So it actually was not a problem. They helped me out with that and everything.
They're like, oh, yeah, we've seen this.
No, it's, yeah. And it didn't work while I was in the States. So like that sucked because my left leg was lengthening while my right leg was basically sitting still.
So you say it didn't work as in what? Malfunctioning of the actual magnet device?
The nail wasn't working. The nail was not actually lengthening on my right leg.
Oh. So you're in this predicament where you have to decide if you want to continue with the other one or not to make it like stay in pace with this one, or like continue because you're in the middle of it and you should be doing it right now.
Yeah, well, the thing is, the answer was to continue lengthening on my left no matter what, because if it stays still for too long, then you risk it
fusing.
Yes, and then you have to re-break it.
Oof.
Which is what happened to me on my right leg.
So you had premature fusion because you couldn't continue the process, while the other one you were able to do fully. So after May finishes, you have to fly back there and get your right femur broken again.
And they did. And the nail was malfunctioning, right? So we had a surgery to do two things: to break the bone again, which was way more painful the second time. Like the first time I left that surgery and I was like, oh, this feels amazing comparatively to the first one. I was like, this is so much better. The second time I was in agony. I was yelling. I was so bad. It was like, they could not give me enough morphine. Like they don't even give you morphine. They give you some cheap alternative, but
what is it?
It's morphine light. I don't know. Like they don't tell you what stuff they put in you, by the way.
Oh my
all the
God.
time. Yeah. Unless you ask specifically, like, and to their defense, I did ask specifically and they told me, but like they call it morphine, but it's not. Like I found out later that it's not morphine. And I was like, oh, then why do you call it that? It's like, just whatever.
It's easier for you idiots.
Yeah, something like that. That's at the hospital, not at the clinic. Dude, I got to tell you some stories about the hospital. By the way, I had 11 surgeries. Most people don't know this.
That's crazy.
11 total. I was supposed to have like 3 or 4.
Jesus.
Yeah. I was supposed to be there 4 months. I was there a total of 8. Yeah. Anyway, so I had an agreement with them. Not an agreement. Like this is what the point of the surgery was. They were supposed to go in, change the nail for one that worked, break my bone so that the fusion thing wasn't an issue, and then we would continue lengthening, right? But no. I woke up and I definitely felt the pain. They definitely broke my bone like they said they would. That was excruciating. And then later they told me, oh, by the way, we didn't switch out the nail. I was like, excuse me? What? Why? It's like, because when we took the nail out and then they tested it on the table, it worked. I was like, yeah, but
oh my God.
If it doesn't work in my body where it's supposed to fucking be, it doesn't work. It's like, oh yeah, but because the nail work, the company won't pay for it. So it's like, so you're just trying to save money.
So what were they gonna do? Put it back in you?
No, that's what they did. They took the nail out, tested it, and then put it back in, which I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to fucking do. It's like you inject with a needle. You're supposed to. It's one-time use, right? Don't use it again somewhere. Like, I think it's even more important to.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, and so it's like, okay, so you just put it back in me. It's like, yeah, the nail works. Doesn't work. We tried everything. Like we tried, like they would like grab my knee and they would like pull as I'm doing it to like try to get it unlocked, and it's like so painful. It's so much. Nope, didn't work. Okay, great. So now the solution is to do the thing that you fucking told me you were going to do, And now they had another surgery like 2 days later, and then they finally changed it out, and now this nail worked. I'm like, oh, of course it worked, because this one.
So that's 2 of 11 surgeries to accomplish what should have been not had to occur in the first place. Right?
Oh, I mean, if you want to think of it that way, then there's plenty more that didn't need to happen.
Yeah, like we got to get into these 11 surgeries, because it's like I'm thinking, hey, the tibia one, which is like the actual one, that's one. And you have the femur, which is 2.
It was supposed to be tibia removal, femur, and then nail exchange, which is something that
But like that one shouldn't have had to happen to begin with.
No. This nail exchange that I'm talking about, I can explain, but it was because part of the problem with me doing precise is supposed to stay in your body, right? But I couldn't, because I'm too heavy. So we needed to, when I was fully done lengthening with the precise nail, change it for a titanium one that could hold my weight. And so there were supposed to be 4 surgeries, but it was 11. And one of the unnecessary ones was that, right? So they finally went in and they put one that worked, and now it worked, right? And I'm lengthening and I'm keeping track, like, oh, I know how much I've lengthened this leg. I know how much I've lengthened this one. I need to catch up, right? And I still have a good amount to go. They come in, hey, we're scheduling you for your removal. Like, what? For your nail exchange? Like, why? I still have so much left to do. It's like, no. Like, we looked at the x-rays and they're the same now. Like, we're good. I'm like, are you sure? I pushed back on it because I've been keeping track. And I'm like, okay, maybe the machine that tells me how much it's lengthened is malfunctioning, whatever, fine. You guys looked at the x-rays. I got the removal done. They put in the titanium nail. Now I can't lengthen anymore. That's it. We're done. Right? It's nothing I can do. They come back the next day. Oh, we misread the x-ray.
Oh my God.
It's like, you fucking what? It's like, yeah, we're really sorry, but it's okay. Some people have natural discrepancies. I was like, not this much. It's like there's a big difference. It's like, what the actual hell? Like, I told you guys it wasn't ready, and they did it anyway. And I was like, I just was in utter disbelief, but I was like, oh, I have no option. So the only thing that I could do.
What's the owner of this clinic thinking? Is it him overseeing it directly, or is it like an employee that just did bad maths on the back of a napkin and is an idiot? Or
I'm pretty sure the one who looks at the x-rays in the end is the doctor. Yeah, allegedly. But yes,
I guess they'd have to sign off on it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I honestly don't know if they just looked at the wrong x-rays or if they misread the x-rays.
What's worse? Jesus.
I don't know. And I want to say I really like these. Like, it's hard for me because like part of me really likes them, and then the other part of me is just like pissed off. It's like, why would you? Like,
they seem like genuine, nice people, but they just like are doing idiotic things.
That's the generous way of interpreting it. Although with enough time, I'm starting to feel like, oh, yeah,
I feel like if attention to detail is that low for like this significant of a process that's like life altering, then
it's not just attention to detail. There's also outright things that like we as patients have been telling them for forever. Like, hey, this person, the guy who's in charge of our hospital stay, this is what he did. You need to fire him. Nope, he's still there now. Like, for a year. It's absolutely just.
What do you do?
It's more like what he doesn't do. It's like he's supposed to be there to make sure that you're safe at the hospital, right? The guy is. Do I get in trouble for like? I'm not naming him. So the guy's freaking flirting with the hospital staff, and just like he doesn't give a crap allegedly about us. In my opinion, he doesn't give a flying, and the opinion of many other patients, he doesn't give a flying crap about us. It's just nepotism. It's like, that's why he works there. That's it. Like, he keeps on hopping around in different positions because they need to keep him somehow employed. And so they relegate him to the least important thing, which is the actual fucking client. Like, brutal. Like, yeah, it's like, why would you have him in charge of the most important thing, which is your clients at the hospital, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. I don't know of any patient there who has a positive view of him. I'm not saying there isn't any. It's none that I know. And yeah, he's not the only employee like that. But anyway, he what was I saying? I went on a tangent because
So we're in the hospital that is negligent as hell, overseeing people. You have 11 surgeries because of horrible.
Yeah. The hospital. Fun story. My first surgery there. At one point, this lady comes to do IVs, which, by the way, you know how you like aspirate before doing IVs or whatever the word is to take out the air bubbles?
Mm-hmm.
They don't give a crap about that over there.
They
like,
shoot you with air.
It don't matter how much air. Like the whole freaking hose could be full of air. They're like, oh, it's okay. And they'll do it anyway. I'm like, no, can you please? Like, no, it's okay. I'm like, are you kidding me? Just do it. It takes 2 seconds.
Give you a pulmonary embolism.
Yes, give me peace of mind that I'm not going to die, right? They don't give a crap. And
this is like intravenous.
Yes.
Not because, by the way, some people think if you shoot air into your muscle for like a steroid shot that you get a pulmonary embolism. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
But into your literal intravenous, it's likely a much different story.
Yes. They don't give a crap.
I don't know how much air leads to it, but like you would not want any, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I don't want any. I was like, I get that there's a safe amount. How about we don't test it? Right?
Yeah.
It's like I just had, like, I'm already worried about a fat embolism. I just had my freaking bone canal drilled out for 4 bones, or no, for 2 bones. And so it's like, how about we just don't test it, you know?
Yeah.
And they did that at every single one of my hospital stays. I always had to argue about it with them. Yeah. And that same lady, she drops the IV kit on the ground, right? And it's like, oh, a new IV kit. Nope. She looks at it, looks around to make sure none of her coworkers are looking, picks it up, and proceeds to try to put it in me. And I'm like,
what the fuck?
Exactly. I'm like, what the fuck? It's like, that's when I realized, what did I just do?
And that's what you saw. Imagine what's going on that you didn't see.
Exactly. And I'm like, there's no way that she literally just tried to put, I told her, I literally said in my best Turkish, no. It's like, no, stop. And she's like kind of annoyed but resigned to it, right? And then went and got a new kit, which I really hope was new. And I was just like,
went and blew on it and came back.
I don't know, dude. I wouldn't even put that past them, but like maybe she finally, I don't know. I asked for water 1,000,000 times. Su is Turkish for water, right? Su, water, please. They look at you straight in the eye. This is not my experience only, by the way. Like, this is kind of a common theme and meme amongst us patients that we talk about. It's like, yeah, they look at you straight in the eye. Okay, water? Okay, you'll never hear from them ever again. 8 out of 10 times, they will just never come back. It's like, you can't leave your bed. You can't do anything. You're freaking thirsty as heck. You're starving. They'll look at you in the eye and they're like, they know what you want. Okay. And then they just leave and they know that you can't do shit.
So I guess it sounds like it's common that people take advantage of the lack of capacity for patients to actually like do anything about it. Because you're just like,
what are you going to do?
Yeah.
And then the people who get quadrilateral are even worse. They really can't do anything about it, right? We need help going to the freaking bathroom. Like, it's miserable. Like, it's so bad. Especially for the quadrilateral people. Like, for me, it wasn't too bad.
Quadrilateral is what, when you get it all done at the same time, or? Okay.
Yeah, which increases the risk of fat embolism a lot, which is why a lot of doctors will not do it. Of course, this clinic will, but like, it's really risky. And in the States, I don't know of any that'll do it in the States, but I know of some that just absolutely will like refuse to do it for that reason. Like, it's too risky.
Last sponsor of today's podcast, Intelligent. This is the cosmetics, hair loss prevention, men's exclusive fragrances company that I started to address the superficial side of things. Getting in front of this stuff earlier rather than waiting till there is visual recession and significant loss occurred is the key when it comes to hair loss prevention. You can avoid getting on a very aggressive stack of drugs and get in on a very tame, tolerable protocol if you start early enough. And that is where Intelligent comes in with the hair loss prevention shampoo, complementary conditioner, with the only ingredients in it that actually do anything when it comes to hair loss with over-the-counter products. Fast drying, non-oily minoxidil, which is a game changer. There are a lot of things that move the needle incrementally when it comes to growth stimulants, but ultimately this one blows them all out of the water essentially, and is the main staple of most hair loss protocols. And then in addition, we have men's cosmetics. We also have our signature microneedling pen device, which is excellent and can be very, very useful for a myriad of things. And lastly, our exclusive men's fragrance line. That is a passion project of mine that I've been developing over the years and has a fragrance to cover you for essentially any situation, date, office, school, whatever it may be. We'll have something for you that I think you'll appreciate. But mainly hair loss prevention and getting in front of it early. I can't stress the importance of that enough. I started thinning very significantly, very quickly in my early 20s, and getting in front of it as quickly as possible from that point was critical for me recovering to a state that I even felt to be presentable, that didn't then require me to get, to even not wear a hat out of the house or need a transplant imminently. For me, treatment was absolutely warranted and needed, and I would be fucked otherwise, and a lot of other individuals would be too, and can attest to how impactful it is getting on the protocol early enough to prevent it from getting worse. If you're trying to play catch up, really fucking hard, unfortunately. Can still be done, but the results you get will not be as good. And the ideal would be waiting until you were done puberty and then getting on a treatment protocol to ensure that you stabilize and maintain where you're at and not let it get worse. Pending, this is something that's important to you, of course, because this is all a ROI calculation at the end of the day. The shampoo and conditioner, fortunately, are non-prescription and very benign in terms of a side effect profile. You will likely not see any noticeable issues from it whatsoever. Very mild anti-androgenic effects locally. Minoxidil has its share of side effect potential, but it is over the counter ultimately and does not require a prescription. And then when it comes to actual prescriptions, those are the most impactful thing you could be doing is finasteride or dutasteride when it comes to 5-alpha reductase inhibition or topical antiandrogens. If you want to see the pharmacologic route and what you should be looking at when it comes to that, I would recommend checking out Marek Health I mentioned earlier in the podcast. That is linked in the description below. But when it comes to over-the-counter things and just getting started quickly while you get set up, if you want to assess the pharma route, which I would absolutely recommend because this will not make up for the lack of finasteride or dutasteride or androgen inhibition locally. If you have very mild hair loss, this will, maybe take care of it, but unlikely. It'll just provide some base level protection and just act as a good shampoo mostly and not frizz your hair out like other hair loss prevention shampoos will. And then the minoxidil is gonna be the heavy hitter when it comes to growth stimulation. And then the pharma side is for preventing further loss. So if that's worthwhile to you, check it out. Link in the description below, code NPMD, save some dough. And our skincare as well. We have cosmetics and the fragrances I spend a lot of time on, really passionate about it, and hope you guys love it. So check it out, and back to our regularly scheduled programming. So you know of 50 people who've done something significant for limb lengthening. Of those, you said 5 had suspected non-union, and then 2 definitively had
a problem with it. 1 got it resolved.
Yeah. And then of those 50 though, other issues that have arisen, like is anyone...
It's hard to think of people. It's harder to think of people that haven't had an issue.
Oh.
Yeah. I know of people that haven't had an issue. It happens, right? And you'll
like deadly stuff, or like what are we talking about? Because I think it's absolutely worth talking about, like the realities of the risk profile of this procedure.
Yeah. So...
It's like fat embolism sounds pretty bad.
It does, yeah. It sounds bad, but like I don't know anyone who's had it, right?
Okay.
Yeah. But I only know so many people who have actually had quadrilateral. Mm-hmm. I know a lot, but still it's not like I know hundreds.
And not happening to 50 people doesn't make it like fine.
Exactly, yeah. I know that people have died, but yeah.
Blood clots, like what is the...
Yeah, that was actually, it was hard for me to tell if it was either blood clot or heart attack, but it was a cardiovascular issue. Believe they had a heart attack. Oh wait, allegedly. So this is it's funny. I was actually just speaking to a bunch of friends who had this surgery done on my way here. Like we just got in a WhatsApp group and just started talking. And I wanted to get clear on this story before I said anything, right? But even with that, I'm saying this is just what allegedly.
Through the grapevine, you heard that this might have happened, and what you heard might have happened was
that some guy, while he was getting physical therapy, had a heart attack, or was having a heart attack. So then they started taking him to the hospital, and while he was in transit to the hospital, he had a heart attack and died.
Jeez.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate, and I actually don't blame the clinic for this because I don't know the circumstances underlying. Because you can go to them and lie about your underlying heart condition. You can. Like, they didn't vet my medical record when maybe they should have, but they didn't vet my medical record. They just take your word for it. So if you're really, really wanting to get tall and you lie to them, that's actually not their fault. But I do know that like there's other things that are done that are very, very risky and that shouldn't be done at all, and they still do it. So,
and we're back. And I have a coat on now because it's cold. So as far as where we were at, we were talking about some of the risks and some like the potentially deadly consequences. Is there anything else you could speak to as far as, I don't know, like online, you typically see the testimonials showing the results, but you don't really see the negatives that might come along with how those people got there. And you can't help but wonder if it's partially because they're still being overseen by that clinic to where they would not want to talk poorly about it and then get shitty oversight and get screwed up or whatever.
Yeah.
Or if people are, getting a discount or like what. So like the realities of the prevalence of this stuff, I know it's not a clinical study that showcases a legitimate, sample size that's controlled and all this, but this is like a highly experimental thing. And at the end of the day, of what you've seen, what are like the most common issues people run into that you think are worth noting? And how common are they?
The most common.
Like obviously it hurts like a bitch.
Yeah.
The recovery takes a while.
Yeah.
Like of stuff like infections, like you had mentioned earlier, how you had a pretty bad infection. And is that typical? And I guess it depends on if they're picking up stuff off the ground and then using it, then that's probably maybe clinic specific for some of them, but.
Yeah. I do want to mention for the record, that was the hospital, not the staff at the clinic.
Sure.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they can't control that.
Right.
But it was scary. But so there's actually a lot of stuff to talk about. So a good starting point would be we have this group of patients that we just talk amongst ourselves. And one day we decided to take a random poll and see how many of us had additional surgery that was, not intended. 73% of us did. And I was like, oh, well, hell, okay.
How many people were in the group?
At that time, it was probably like 20 something.
So all of you were told you were going to get, one surgery for tibia, one surgery for femur.
They were the planned surgery. So it depends on which procedure we were going to do. So the question asked was, it was actually asked differently. It was how many of us had this complication, this complication, this complication, right? And then one of us, one of our friends who's from the States, he compiled it, and then based off of the compiled results, we saw that X amount of us needed to have additional surgery for some reason or another, and it was like 73%. I was like, well, that's a lot. It's like it's a small sample size, right? And it's probably won't pass the sniff test for like a real study, but still, like, that's a lot. And so we looked at like, I looked at like, what is it? Is it infection? Is it, a lot of people had their nails break. That was a problem. And that's a gripe that I have with their method of doing things, because the Precise 2 nail, right? There's another one coming out that's called the Precise Max. That one's fully weight bearing, right? But the Precise 2 nail is not a weight bearing nail, and yet you're encouraged to walk while you're lengthening with it. And so it's like rolling the dice. And a lot of people will have their nail break. And that alone is dangerous, because imagine it breaks and something happens and it, you know, like you can nick something you're not supposed to internally. Like I don't really know how that would work. Maybe
Precise is the higher end methodology of getting the height though, right? So like, would that not be in a situation that would occur domestically with like high tier surgeons here too? Or would they just tell you to not put weight on it?
That's exactly it. They would be responsible and tell you to use the nail as instructed by the manufacturer. Yeah. So like you're not supposed to be walking around, especially while you're lengthening still, and you have like zero help from your own bone, right? Like nothing is consolidated yet. Like you're just going on these little flimsy nails that are not designed to be walked on. And even people who weigh 150 pounds, that's still too heavy, right? So like you're walking around and it's just, it's a numbers game at that point.
So why, if it's going to cost them more because they're covering the surgeries, which is time intensive, personnel intensive, gives them probably worse reviews because people are unhappy they had to get additional surgeries, they may have to get new nails. Like, where is the logic in telling people to do this?
You're asking a lot of the same questions that we've been asking ourselves. Yeah. And it leads us to a few conclusions, which these are all alleged because I don't actually know the answer to why the heck they won't do this. But it must mean their margins are really high. Mm-hmm. And I believe that, and I could be wrong on this, but I believe that the replacement of the nails would be covered by the manufacturer.
So you think they're just trying to get people in and out faster?
That would be total speculation. I think that I actually honestly think that this isn't a nefarious reason. I hate calling people stupid because there's no way that
just an illogical thought process that's outdated that has not been assimilated into new recommendations.
Let me put it this way, right? There was an alleged conversation that happened between the one of the higher ups of the manufacturer of that nail and a friend of mine who was a prospective patient at that point and the owner of the clinic. And in that conversation, everything that the owner had said was completely refuted. And the owner still did the same thing anyway. Like, you cannot walk on these nails. That's the point. And still he's telling everyone, walk on it. And you see it on Instagram. People are, walking with these internal nails unassisted. And that's not just...
Does that void the warranty or whatever?
You would think so, but yeah, like you would think so, right? I don't know, but I don't think it's nefarious. I really don't, because I think he truly just wants, he believes that when you're walking it, and there's truth to this, when you're walking, you're able to recover faster because your muscles are being used. You're stimulating bone growth. I just believe that he believes that the risk is low enough that it's worth taking it. And that, if it breaks, we'll just replace it. That's honestly what I think it is. These are my thoughts. I don't actually know the reason why, but given what I've seen, that's just what I've been led to conclude myself.
Presumably you're familiar with other clinics at this point and kind of practices outside of the one you were in. Mm-hmm. Is this something anyone else does in terms of companies, or?
I'm sure others do, because when you say anyone, I mean...
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Worse shit probably exists.
Yeah. But not in the States. Not in the States that I'm aware of. Everyone that does Precise does it how it's supposed to be done.
And would you say just in general, you get what you pay for when it comes to this kind of a surgery? In that if you're in the States, sure, there's probably like some bad apples, but in general, you're going to get better quality care doing it here versus...
I feel like you can pay a lot and still get really crappy quality.
Okay.
Yeah. So I wouldn't even tie it to price. I'd tie it with regulation, and like in the States, right? There's no way that I could ever see some of the stuff that happened while I was there happening in the States. Not for long, because there would be consequences and they would be dire and severe, and it would just be cut that shit out. Like it's not happening anymore. So I think the country that you get it done in matters, and that happens to be correlated with price. It's just, I wouldn't say just because it's more expensive, it's better.
Yeah, like my thought would be or my guess would be similar in that, for example, with hair transplants, it's kind of like an art form almost too. Yeah. So it's like, even though you could be paying a lot, you might get somebody who's just not that skilled and not get that great of an outcome. Yeah. And just because they're, in the US or Canada, it doesn't mean it's going to guaranteed be better than the Turkey one or whatever. But yeah. I don't know. In general, it seems like if you're starting fresh in research, the likelihood of getting the quality, it's easier to find it proportionally, yes. At least domestically.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if money was no option and you had all the options in the world, presumably you would do domestic.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not even that much cheaper. When you're doing precise, it's not that much cheaper to go over there anymore, because 68 versus 76, it's like, they have the package and everything, cool, but
it's a bit less attractive that they cover your surgeries when they force you to do 4 times more surgeries than if you were in the States.
In my case, yeah, exactly, yeah.
So let's just say for some level of showing both sides of the coin here, because we could go on all day about, the worst thing that could happen, but also some people get a really good result and have life-changing outcomes from this.
Yeah.
What are the 3 best examples you could give of the 50 people you know and the 3 worst? Like obviously one guy died, which is probably one of the 3 of the worst.
I actually didn't know him though. I just know
okay.
Him. Yeah.
Sure. So your friend, he went, what was his before and after stats? And
he was 5'6" to 6 foot. He did 15. He maxed out. He maxed out his femur. No, I think he got 14. 14 centimeters is what he did. Yeah, he got 14 total. I don't remember the exact numbers. He was conservative relative to us. I think it was 13 or 14 that he got, and he's just under 6 foot. I don't really know, because for me 5'10" to 6 foot's kind of it's somewhere in that 5'10" to 6 foot range, but he was a lot shorter. It's crazy how much of a difference it is. But
and how long did it take to do the whole thing?
So he was there for the entire time that I was there the first round. So that means December
until May.
Through May, I came back and I left June 20. I left before July 4th. And so that's 7 months plus 1. That's, holy crap, how long was I there? December, January, February, March, April, May, June. So he was there 7 months about. Maybe a little bit more.
Okay.
Yeah.
And after that, he went either gained 4 or 6 inches, one of the two. He went from 5'6" to...
I think he gained about, probably between 4 and 5 inches.
And at that 7-month mark, he's like, everything gets removed. You can go home. You can walk on it. Great. Or like, what is your level of function at that point?
When you go home?
Yeah, like
not very high.
Okay. So is he like crutches? Like what is the level of mobility?
So yeah, he would be crutches. Because you still don't have your bone healed, right? And so you still need assistance. And so he doesn't have his bone healed. He still needs assistance, so he's using crutches. And then it's just getting off of crutches eventually, and then gaining some mobility, and then gaining some strength. And so it's like, it kind of gradually, like, he's just gradually improving and has been improving. And he now has an almost completely imperceptibly different walk, like imperceptible difference in his gait. As according to him, the last time I asked, which is very recently, he can pretty much do everything like a normal person. Obviously not running or jumping like athletically yet, but in terms of just normal day-to-day life, and the only thing that causes him any like struggle is downward stairs. Going downstairs is like the epitome of you've made it almost. Like it's really hard. I can go upstairs. I can't go downstairs yet. Like it's hard.
So, so that's 2 years since he got it started basically, because he was there at the same time as you to start.
Yeah, but he lengthened almost the max.
So he is expected to return to full baseline athletic capacity, or it's...
Yeah, I believe he will. He used to be a powerlifter, collegiate powerlifter as well. He's an athletic guy, a lot lighter though. So like that helps him in this area a lot. I believe he's going to be 100% back to normal.
And when do you think that would, like, what is the typical time frame to get back to, whatever your baseline you would deem is?
See, that's the thing about, like, when I get asked that question all the time about myself too. It's like, it's so hard to tell because we all thought that we would be good a long time ago. Here we are 2 years later and we're still like celebrating like wins. It's like, oh, I can do this now. It's like, like this really simple thing. I jumped like 2 millimeters the other day and I was like, PR. Like I cleared this much off the ground.
I feel like if you can even get credit card hops at your size,
it was a credit card.
That'd be a win, dude.
It was a credit card if you put the credit card flat on the ground. Like that's how much I was able to get off.
So, because obviously for you, a lot of the stats will be a bit less relatable because I don't think anyone expects that you would have a perfect outcome anyways. So if you do, it's almost an anomaly regardless.
You mean when I do?
When you do, yeah.
When I do, it will be, yes.
Yeah.
You're right.
So, but he's like a more representative case study of somebody who had a good result, 2 years deep, still can't sprint though.
He's still an anomaly because he did quadrilateral precise and got towards the max.
But basically in an aggressive surgical context, even a good result, you're still looking at multiple years before return to full function.
Yeah.
If you get there.
Yeah. Okay. That's the thing that a lot of people don't get. Now, certain clinics will tout their absolute best results patients, right? And that kind of will skew it to be like, oh, I can do it too. But even those absolute outlier ones are still not as good as you think they are.
It's social media. They show the best of the best snippet of time.
And even if you did, even if they are, it's not what it's going to be like for the other 99 people who, out of the 100 that do it. Which is probably going to be you if you do it, So it's like you should probably care about the other cases more than that one, right? But I do have another sample of a friend of mine who's more representative of like a good outcome because what he did, he only did I think 5 or 6 centimeters and he only did it in one segment. And the guy didn't take long before he's going surfing and playing football and jogging and running with friends, right? And he's in the same friend group is like my original, like I call it a cohort, and he was in our cohort and with Denzel and with the other people that I've mentioned. And he's doing well. He showed me pictures of him jumping. I was like, how the hell are you already jumping? And that was a year ago that he was jumping. Now he's just like, he's just living life and having fun, and it has a lot to do with how much you lengthen and also what segment. I have another friend of mine, a Canadian friend of mine who did tibias only, and he did 4 centimeters, and he's still having trouble. Granted, it's only a year ago, about almost a year ago that he did it, and and he did it very conservatively as well. But I mean, the tibia is a bitch. So like for athletic ability, like if you do tibias, you're looking at a much longer time frame than if you only do femurs.
Okay.
Then I have another friend of mine who is in that original cohort, and he's had a hell of a go at it. He's the one with the non-union issue, right? And he's had multiple surgeries. I think he might be the only one that's close to how many surgeries I've had, and he might have more when all is said and done. Hopefully not for him, but like he's really struggling because yeah, he doesn't trust this clinic at all anymore. He's like, he's going off to other doctors now, for better or worse. I don't know, but that's a really bad example. Well, not a bad example, an example of a really bad outcome that like didn't have to be that way. It could have been treated better. It could have been done right. There were issues with his alignment that were done. That's another thing that happens frequently is alignment issues. At this clinic, at least, I am aware of quite a lot of people, including myself, with one foot that's not in the position that it's supposed to be. Yeah, and I told them to fix it on one, right, and asked them to fix it on the other. And they did it on the one, and they didn't want to fix it on the other. So now I just got to live with one of my feet being slightly inward. I'm like, okay, well, this is my new normal now. Thanks a lot.
And it's like you find you're the one having to point it out for them to even look at it, kind of thing?
The exact conversation went, hey, this leg over here, I'm pretty sure I have this. Yeah, okay, just a little bit, I'll fix it. That was the conversation. And then I had to remind him to, and then he eventually fixed it.
Yeah, so we'll get into the detail of your 11 surgeries we kind of delved into a bit, but particularly your infection. Before that, just to give a high level kind of summarization of what is the typical outcome of the 50 people. We've kind of talked about a couple of really great examples, a couple of bad ones. What is the average height increase that somebody gets out of it, and the average time to actually get back to functional baseline? Like, is it just like a few inches and then 3+ years? Because it sounds like that's kind of in the, like your one friend, he's an aggressive but good example, an outlier, but still a good example for everything's going great. And he's still 2 years deep and just now looking like he walks like a normal person.
Yeah. So to answer that in a way that actually, so the averages make sense, we have to segment them into people who did femurs only, and then people who did both segments, because there's just two. It's bimodal. Like the people who do femurs only, they expect somewhere between 7 to 8 on average. Everybody wants to get to 10 right?
Centimeters.
Centimeters.
Maybe talking inches, because like that's how people.
Sorry, it's second nature now.
Sure.
What is 2 to 2.54 centimeters is an inch, so we're talking about 3 inches.
Okay.
Yeah, you can get about 3 inches. If you do 3 inches on femur, that's still pretty conservative. You're probably looking at like a normal walk within the year.
Okay.
And then, like my friend who did only the 6, like
when we say normal walk, you mean like
I can't tell something's wrong with you.
Yeah. Okay. What about fast walking or jogging? Still not possible?
Yeah, you're probably good at within 2 years. Like I'm sure that most people who do that will be fine. Some people will get there within the first year.
Okay.
So yeah, like I would say that look for 2 years before you're like doing stuff again. It could be sooner. Some people are sooner.
And aside from pain, discomfort, the amount of time it takes, the money, is there a typical common, I don't know, problem that people run into like within this average? Or is it kind of like the average person who gets this result, they'll probably get through it just with it, the expected issues, which are like the pain that comes from surgery, the downtime, the blah, blah, blah.
I don't know if I understood the question. Sorry, I'm going to ask you to say that again.
So if you took the average outcome, is there anything that perhaps somebody wouldn't think of beforehand that is going to be a complication they should expect? Because oftentimes when you see the stuff advertised, they'll talk about, the time it'll take to do it, the cost financially, there's pain associated with surgery and recovery. But aside from all that, is there anything that happens in almost everyone that
happens in almost everyone
that is just like not well known that should be also considered even to get this average outcome? Like maybe your sleep is horrendous because
So
and it's like impossible to go to the bathroom. Like, I don't know, just things you wouldn't think of until, I guess I probably should have predicted that I can't do anything myself.
If you do LON, right? Sleeping is dang near impossible, especially for femurs.
Okay.
Because you have 2 sleeping positions, and really it's just one on your back.
Yeah.
On your back or your belly, but really it's your back. And so if you're not a back sleeper, like I wasn't, even with the tibia fixators, it's a pain in the butt. Like sleeping was rare. The other thing is, but yeah, that's a big one though, by the way. The sleep, it compounds because in that clinic, right, we all know each other, we all hang out, we all WhatsApp each other. Like we're all up at like 4 a.m. still. Like people don't sleep. Like it's not like it is a rare commodity. And then the people who did precise, they sleep like angels, like little babies. It's like no problem whatsoever. But at least relatively. And then
that's a good note though.
Yeah, it's a big deal. And then showers. One thing that you don't realize is you are going to stink to high heaven, some more than others. And
is there a difference in stench versus precise versus the other one?
Yes.
Okay.
You can shower with precise. You can't shower with LON. That means that for months I had not showered for months.
Dude. Yeah, they do not.
They don't let me.
That's crazy.
Yeah, you know,
makes sense.
I was doing whore baths. I was literally like ordering.
It's like Jack Hanma. He wasn't allowed to go in water.
Yeah. Badass, right? I would and they would like come in, right? They'd knock, and then they'd open the door, right? Like no time. So if like you were in the middle of doing something you don't want someone walking in on, like no warning almost, right? It's not like you could move fast either.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I'd be like butt naked on my wheelchair with these towels, like washing myself, like getting as clean as I possibly can. And then some house cleaning lady would walk in and look at me, and I'm like, no, don't look at me in this decrepit form. Like, and then some patients would be caught doing some more embarrassing stuff.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, but
there's probably not much else you can do. You're just sitting there, either watching TV or yanking it.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Playing chess with people there or something.
Yeah. Not so much chess, but yeah, the other two.
Sure.
That's a big thing. And then the lack of privacy, but that's specific to the clinic, not the procedure. Another thing to think about would be peeing. So you would think like, you don't think really peeing is a big deal, right? But like just going to the bathroom, like back and forth, is like, there's a cost to that. It hurts to walk. It's hard. Getting up is hard. And so then we go to pee bottles, right? And so some of us have to pee more than others. And sometimes they don't like do house cleaning enough for them to empty out my pee bottles. And so what that'll end up being is some of us will have a collection of our piss in like water bottles, because we order everything through Yemek Sepeti, which is like the Turkish version of DoorDash, Uber Eats kind of thing, and we order our groceries through it. Yeah. We can't drink the tap water there, so we just get a ton of bottled water. So we have all these empty bottles. So we'll just end up pissing in these bottles, and we're too lazy to dump it into the bathroom ourselves. So eventually, the laziest of us, myself included, will end up collecting a shit ton of piss bottles. And so I
don't even know if you need to call it lazy. You're probably trying to be modest about it.
It hurts.
It's like, Dude, I can imagine you're.
You know how much pain? Oh my gosh! And so like this is why they give you these pee bottles, right? They don't stay shut very well, right? So I put them on the walker. This is back when I could walk. And one of my first experiences there was I have 2 full pee bottles and I have to go to the bathroom, and it's really hard. Everything hurts. So I put the pee bottles on the walker, and I'm like, I'm going to trek to the bathroom, right? Which is like almost just the distance from you to the wall, maybe a little bit more. It's like not that far, but it's a trek at that point. Yeah. And so I make it there, and then my walker can't get in the bathroom because there's a ledge about the thickness of this table, right? About this tall. Yeah. But that means that I have to put, for even a minute, for a second, I have to put all of my weight in order to get the walker above. And I'm like, fuck. Like, it's so painful. And because this is like right after surgery. And I do it. And I get it up. And then I don't think about the pee bottles being on top of the walker. So what happens is these full pee bottles slide. And I'm like, no, 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 no. And I grab one of them, but then the other one slips all over the floor. So now I'm standing with my bones broken and piss all over the floor. It's after hours. No one's coming. And I walk up onto the ledge of the bathroom and I'm just looking at a sea of piss. And I'm just like, this is a problem. So
to say lightly.
yeah, I was like, what am I going to do now? Great. I'm stuck. I'm trapped in my bathroom and I can't get out without walking through a floor of piss. And that's really gross.
Yeah.
And so I'm very, very defeated. And I call and I was like, somebody please help me. And they bring the night guard, who I love these guys, the night security, comes with a mop, looks at me. He understands. Wiping the piss just back and forth. No cleaner, just wiping it back and forth. They'll take care of it tomorrow. And I'm like looking at him and I was just like, I fucking hate my life right now. This is so bad. And then he goes about his merry way with a probably dripping piss mop. And I have to make it through that now sticky floor back to my bed.
And not like slip or something too.
Yeah. And I was just like, oh, this is my life. Like I chose this. There's no sympathy. I did this to myself.
Yeah, man. It's like, I imagine a bunch of stuff you don't even think of is going to be a problem until you're in the situation and like, oh wow, this very basic thing that I'm not used to having any effort whatsoever associated with it is like the hardest thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like there's a lot of things that you don't think about. And also they don't really prep you. So if you are going to go to Turkey, if you are actually going to do this, despite what I say, I encourage someone who's thinking about it to talk to me, because I'll at least give them my list of things that I wish someone had told me before, like things that are really helpful, because it really helps to go there prepared, because it's tough.
If you could go back in time and tell your previous self, what is like the biggest takeaways you would say as far as what you should do differently or what you wish you knew ahead of time?
Assuming I'm doing this anyway.
Well, I guess good question. Would you do this again in hindsight, first off?
So I get a version of this question all of the time, and I've given it a lot of thought. And essentially boils down to, do I regret this or would I do this again knowing what I know now, right? And the answer is different depending on how you define regret. Because some people will take that to mean, some people would take that to mean like, if you could go back in time, like what you said, if you can go back in time, like, would you do this again or not, right? But then other people are like,
well, you don't assume you're ignorant to what's going to happen. That's the whole point of going back in time, is you'd be able to tell your previous self exactly what happened. It's like the outcome is you're going to be 6'6", which is sick, but it's this painful and you might have only thought it was going to be this, and they're going to fuck up your surgery and they're going to do this and they're going to do that.
Oh, in my particular case, the answer is I would not do this again. No. But I know a lot of people that their answer would be, I'm so glad that I didn't know because I'm glad I got this done, but there's no way that I would have done it had I known this. Which is a different answer, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of circumstances in which people couldn't imagine going through what they went through, but after they were done it, they were glad for the outcome though.
Yeah,
so with that in mind though, I would say that's the context of the question. Like you would say to yourself, don't do it because this is the hardship you're going to encounter. I
would have said, save up all of your money, right? If you still want to do this, but trust me, in 2 years, you're not going to give a crap about your height anymore. So so weather it out, right? Which is ironic. I don't even care right now. I don't, because the reasons for why I got it done no longer apply 2 years later. So I'm just like,
oh. In what way though?
How much time? So
you don't feel like your torso is too?
No. So like those were superficial reasons for why I got this done, but there was actually an underlying reason, which is a little bit more, what's the word? So remember I told you I was super religious, right? I used to be Mormon, like super duper Mormon, right? Like went on my mission, got married in the church, all that stuff, Salt Lake Temple. And I was very, very in super belief of of my religion, and it meant a lot to me. And then that all got ripped away when I learned, oh shoot, this is a cult, or this isn't true, right? It's like, oh no, the whole reason I was in this is because I thought it was real. My entire reality, like, it went to shit. Like I cried like a little bitch, like for the first time. Like I'd never cried like that when I found out that like my entire life is fucked, right? And then like, and now I'm married to a beautiful, amazing woman who's still Mormon, and I don't know if she's gonna want to be with me now. It's like my whole life was just like totally like upended, and I didn't realize until recently just how much of an effect that had in my life. Because ever since that point, like once you're Mormon, it's hard to be any kind of Christian. And if you're Mormon, you know why that is. It's just hard to, it's not impossible, many do, but like I tried to be Christian after that and it just didn't work. I couldn't believe in God anymore. I basically became atheist. And my entire life just started derailing piece by piece after that. I started making horrible, horrible decisions. Everything just started going bad, and I felt bad and I couldn't figure out why. So I was trying to figure some way to make myself feel better. And one of those, it all culminated like after like 5 or so years after that. I just got so bad that I was in this frame of just trying to find a reason to live. I was depressed, and I had only one thing left, and that was working out. So I got really good at that. And then I got so good at it that I was like, I don't know if I want to get any bigger than this. I'm already pretty strong. I don't even care about posting my best lifts anymore, because it's like, I don't get any pleasure from what's going on. Like I was like, why am I not enjoying the one thing that I enjoy? Is like, and my proportions suck. Like maybe if I fix those, I was looking for something, you know? I was like, oh, maybe relearning how to squat will make me enjoy the thing that I love again, because it's like, I really love the journey, but now I'm not even happy with it. Like I was not thinking clearly. I was trying to figure out how the heck can I make this, feeling better, you know? And I was like, maybe I'm like a computer and I just need to like reset, unplug and plug back in, do something so radical, so drastic, so crazy that it's like hitting the reset button on my life so that I can feel good again. And my wife, I love her so much because she put up with so much, not just this, but before this, I was like going off of the rails, and essentially like I forced her to let me do this by just like, because the alternative was, I don't know, me doing something even stupider. Like it was bad. It was just really, really bad. And so had I not been in that state, no way I would have done this. There's no fucking way. Like, yeah, I had the reason. I still would have wanted better proportions, but I wouldn't have done something this radical, like this crazy. It just wouldn't have been something that I do. So now, after that experience, it did reset my life. It did put me in a position where I'm like, oh shit, I screwed everything up. Now I got to fix it, you know? And my marriage was crumbling. It was deteriorating actually, because of all the financial stress of all of my wife just couldn't understand why I did this. And it's like, I don't have a good answer. It's like, how could I put my family through this? Like, I don't have a good answer. I didn't have a good answer. Now I see it. It's still not a good answer, but now I see it and I'm just like, oh my God, I really fucked up. Like my beautiful kids, I lost so much time with them. My amazing, perfect wife, how could I do this to her? I'm like, I'm a fucking piece of shit. Gosh, what did I do? And so, now I'm in a position where, ironically, through this process, I went from being really atheist to like, oh shit, someone actually is paying attention and caring for me and making sure that I don't fuck up too badly. Let me try praying again. Oh my gosh, oh no, are you really there? Crap, what did I do? It's like, now that you're like, now I'm starting to believe in God again. I'm like kind of reluctant to admit that, because if I admit that, then I really fucked up, you know? And so I reluctantly became Christian again. And now I am, and I'm very happy about it. And my life is going so much better. I joined also this self-help program, which is freaking amazing, by the way. It's called Goat's Win. I Goats Win. I actually worked for them up until yesterday. And it helped save my marriage. It's actually one of their programs is to help save marriages. And it worked so well. My family and I are so close now, and I'm in a such better, happy spot. I believe in God. I don't need any of that shit that was like that I thought that I needed. I don't care about being bigger and stronger anymore. I just want to be healthy, right? I just want to, what I want now is so different than what I wanted 2 years ago, that if I had known that that's what was missing, I would have known what to fix, and I would have just fixed that instead. But it is what it is. Like I already did it. I can't take it back, right? It's just, people ask me why you were so big and strong already. It's like, yeah, but you don't get it. Like I was not all there. I was not okay. And now that I see that, and now that I am okay, I'm dealing with the consequences of what I did because I wasn't, and I get really upset because I take a look at that marketing that they do that I said was very effective. And I know so many people that were duped by that same freaking methodology of taking people who are at their most euphoric phase, which is like, oh, I'm getting taller, right? And they show
They're
that
in like the hyper dopamine stage of making progress daily.
Yes. And then they just finished and they think it's going to get so much better from now on, right? But before they go home, they're super elated. They're like, I just did this really hard thing. It's only going to get better from now on.
Yeah.
And then they film you during that part. And then if you do get better, they'll keep up. And then if you don't, oh, you don't hear from them again. I wonder why.
Yeah.
Right? And then a lot of people...
Because you don't find out if it's successful often until like after. Because you can stretch the thing and like get the process done and be getting taller daily. Because it's inevitable as long as you don't have a complication.
Yeah.
It's like guaranteed we're going to separate the bone by this much on an incremental schedule. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, I'm getting taller. The outcome is there.
Yeah.
Until you see the reality of the rehab and the recovery.
Yeah. And then the ones who do are the ones who you see. And because of the sheer volume, like you have no idea how many people this one clinic does. It is.
Give me an idea, ballpark.
I asked them once and it was like, man. All right. We see new people coming in every week. Multiple new people coming in every week. There are 40 rooms in that one place, right? So, and they're always booked. That's another problem. They allegedly overbook. Yeah. Jeez. To the point where, like Denzel, Mr. Broken Bones, right? He was in the hospital longer than he needed to be, allegedly, because they were waiting for a room to clear up, not because he needed to be there.
Jeez.
Yeah. And by the way, being in the hospital is hell. It's absolute hell. Like you would think like, oh, it's not that big a deal. No, an extra day at the hospital. Like when I had to stay an extra day, I was like almost in tears. I was like, no, not another day. It was so bad. And when I went back for my infection, I feel really bad for the guy that I did this to, but because I was coming, right? Allegedly, dude, I don't want to get in trouble for any of this because I can prove it though. The guy that whose room I was staying in before I went to the hospital, that guy had to stay at the hospital just a little longer so that I could be in his room. And when I found that out, I'm like, oh shit, that sucks. And I was promised that I would have a room myself, and if they couldn't find me a room, they would pay for the hotel. Don't worry about it. You could stay at my house. Worst case scenario, you could stay at my house. A promise for me is as good as done, right? Whatever. And then I go there. I go to the hospital under the impression that they've got me. They'll comp, a hotel, and it has to be a hotel with an elevator because otherwise I can't get anywhere. And after I had my surgery, while I'm in all this pain and I'm expected to go back to the hotel, I'm told, oh, you have to find somebody, you have to convince a patient to let you stay with them. I'm like, what do you mean I have to convince a bunch of strangers, because this is a totally new crop of patients, like this is a totally different cohort. I have to convince a bunch of strangers to let me stay with them, or else what? It's like, oh, or else you have to pay for a hotel, and or use the Golden Dream, which is the one next door that has like all stairs. It's like that doesn't serve me even a little bit. And so I started, and I couldn't afford, by the way, at that time, a good hotel. I just couldn't. They're really expensive to stay for a whole month. Like, that's a lot of money. And I had to start calling strangers, or texting strangers, really, WhatsApping strangers that I had just met a day ago, and be like, hey, I know you paid so much money to stay in a room, but do you mind me bunking in for free? It's like, how am I going to do that? And bless their heart, like, I love them so much. This particular guy, to this day, I will owe him so much. He volunteered to take the shitty hotel for me so that I could take his room. And if that hadn't happened, I still don't know what the heck I would have done. Like,
and you were like one of the high profile patients too.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
imagine somebody who's not on social media.
I had also just taken down my social media at that point, and I was starting to regret it. Yeah, it's like as soon as Joe Rogan mentioned me that first time, I was like, I just
it's too much.
Yeah, because I didn't want to be known for this. Because I mean, I probably seem like an idiot for having done what I did, and to be honest, sometimes I kind of feel like one. But I did it, so now I just got to do what I can. But I still plan on making a full recovery. By the way, we were talking off camera on this, but if this could be on camera, the Squat U guy, please help me. I'll be very good marketing material. I follow you. You're awesome. All right. But like, I still plan on making a full recovery. I want to be super athletic and I want to be healthy. And I plan on using, once I can afford it, I want to use your services for the, like, to get my blood level, to, like, you know, to figure out, like, I want to be healthy. Like, I just want to be.
Oh, like Marek optimization.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I saw that on another podcast, and I was like, oh, that's this guy. That's Derek. Oh, he's awesome. And so I started looking at it. I was like, oh, I will definitely do that. You know, once I'm in a better spot financially, I just want to get healthy. I just want to be there. I want longevity for my family, for my wife and kids mean everything to me now. They're everything. And so this is a circling back. I definitely regret having done this, not for the reasons that people think. It's not the pain. It's not the suffering, although that definitely doesn't help, right? It's literally just what I did to my absolutely amazing family that is, and the fact that I still can't just like pick them up and run outside. Like it's, yeah.
Yeah, we should definitely talk about that after. If you're not getting medical oversight right now, like there's a lot we could help with when it comes to rehabilitation, bone integrity, relief of pain, when it comes to like actual therapeutic addressing of it, not just masking it with NSAIDs or anything.
Yeah, so, which is what a lot of people recommend they do, is take NC, how do you say?
Non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs.
Yeah, how do you, I know how to write out the acronym. How do you say it?
I say NSAIDs.
NSAIDs, okay, yeah. They like Voltaren. By the way, Voltaren is a wonder drug. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like my favorite pill. Because of all the drugs that help, diclofenac is like the best of the best. I took tramadol. Tramadol doesn't do crap. Like nothing worked like Voltaren. I don't know why I'm plugging Voltaren. It doesn't make any sense. I don't get anything. But anyway, so yeah, that would be awesome, man. I would absolutely love that.
It's pretty wild how they don't, like throughout our whole discussion, I didn't ask just because I got the vibe that they didn't do this, but no blood work to assess like what your hormones are at, no micronutrients or like diet optimization for bone healing.
They have a nutritionist, right? And if you look at the marketing, then you would check off like, oh, okay, they care. But realistically, like you'll get like a nutrition plan, but there's no way to implement the nutrition plan because of the limited food and the way that you get it. It's like,
and it has to be scalable for them, presumably, given how many patients they have and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. And so it's like you're stuck ordering a lot of fast food, or you can order from their kitchen, which for like a month or two is great, but it's expensive, and you'll also get very tired of the options very quickly. Very quickly, to the point where you'll just end up hating some of them, even if you love them at the beginning. So,
dude, we somehow didn't talk about your infection. How common are infections in this procedure, and what happened with yours?
In this procedure, in this clinic, there's a difference.
Just like in general, when it comes to height increasing surgery, like how probable is it that you'll encounter something like this?
If you do fully internal, not very.
Okay.
Although I do have a friend of mine who did double precise, and he still managed to get staph. He still managed to get an infection, even with the safest, like lowest possible risk of infection. You know, that's like one of the selling points of doing precise.
Yeah.
Still got it. I have another friend of mine who did femur, LON, right? And he had to go back for multiple surgeries, and they still can't get it out. He still has bone infection. Like to this day, like I just saw a video this morning, and it is very scary looking. Like that, like it would, like I fear of that. Like for me, they got rid of mine, right? But every time I have a single little pain anywhere, I'm so mentally fucked. Like I didn't go to a swimming pool for the longest time after everything was healed and closed up because I was afraid. In my mind, I had this association of pool equals infection, like of just like, yeah.
So what did you have exactly? And
MSSA.
Okay, and how'd they get rid of it?
So they had multiple attempts getting rid of it. They took some half measures according to the doctor. They were half measures, and I agree. I asked them to take the full measure, and they didn't. They didn't think it was necessary. Turns out it was, and the way they finally got rid of it was by me going January of this year. They took out the nail out of my tibia, and then they put in fixators. So my leg was being held together exclusively by fixators, without anything inside. And then they put some like concrete antibiotic inside that was held together with like a wire over the spot. And so it was cleaned out, and I basically just was like that for 20 days, 21 days while I was there. And so I just had one fixator on, and I was in my wheelchair again, which I fucking hate, being in a wheelchair. And I was just rolling around for 20 days in the facility center, just making the best of the time that I had there. And then eventually they took it out, and they put a brand new nail in there, and then just taking antibiotics and praying that it worked. That's essentially what happened. And so far, so good. Although every single day I still worry, and that's, until I get all of the hardware removed and I don't have any recurrence for like a year, I probably won't I still will have that like fear within me.
And getting it removed, like you have to go back there again?
I'm not going there. Hell no.
Like you do it here.
Yeah, I'm going to find a way to afford it. Like, I don't care. Like, there's no way that I'm going back there, but I'm going to go to probably Asayag in Baltimore.
Okay.
And have him or someone else just remove them for me.
And the timing of that's just based on once you get an x-ray that shows everything's kind of where it should be, or?
Yeah, but I believe you don't want to wait longer than 2 years to get them removed. But luckily, even though it's been 2 years since my original surgery, I've had all of my nails swapped out later. And so the nails have only been there. The longest one has only been there since June. So I still have till June before I hit that 2-year mark. So I'm hoping that by my birthday in May, I'll get it taken out.
Okay. One thing I did want to touch on is the athleticism component. So one thing I do see when, candidly, I did a very cursory glance of the internet to kind of get my insights on this. So it's probably not comprehensive, but there are very few people that are rigorously documenting this to begin with. And then of the people that are, oftentimes the anecdotes of return to full function is a nuanced, very subjective assessment, often by people who are happy with the outcome of they've increased in height to where they want, and they can move around like a normal person and be perceivably normal.
Yeah.
Walking, jogging, etc. When I see exhibitions of athletic feats from people who are like baseline,
Yeah.
oftentimes I am suspect of their assessment in that, and oftentimes it's marketing material even by the companies. They'll be like, look at this guy running down the hallway 3 years later after his surgery. He's able to run, equals full baseline function.
What they might not tell you, by the way, is like after that run, it's like, ow.
Yeah, you were even telling me today how like, we're 2 years past, and just to be able to walk normally today, you had to like kind of like almost prep a little bit, right?
Well, no. So
like walking.
It wasn't that I had to prep. I was trying to improve my walk unreasonably fast so that I could impress you.
Okay. But then you said it like,
in so doing, I wore out like, so if you use your patellar tendon when you have tendinitis, it just gets worse. So that's what happened was
right.
I was using it more than my new normal.
Sure.
And so in so doing it, yeah. So like if you overuse, if you do too much, it can be detrimental.
Gotcha. So of the examples I've seen of, this guy used to do Taekwondo and look, he's back doing Taekwondo. Here's him kicking the bag. And
Talking about the pilot?
I don't know, probably. There's probably like very few examples of people who are like impressive, I would think. So we're probably talking about the same thing. There's this guy in a dojo.
I know him personally, by the way.
There's a guy in a dojo who's doing like kicks, but you can tell they're very weak kicks. Mm-hmm. He's moving and doing athletic looking movements, but they're all like slow motion essentially. There's another guy who's sprinting on a track, but the sprint, it's like his deceleration capacity is not stop and go like an explosive athlete, although they claim they're as athletic as they ever were. So I do question.
Of course they claim that.
And it's like, if they're happy, that's fantastic because they got the outcome they wanted and they feel, like they got what they wanted out of it. And that's great. I just think there needs to be a realistic, because I often see, or not often, like just doing the research for this, people are trying to make their decision on if they should do this or not based on anecdotes of people who've done it and saying, like, I see comments in comment sections like, I am a high level football player, or I'm a tennis player, or I do this and I'm hoping
Will I be able to?
Yeah. Well, do you think I'll be able to recover to full capacity like you claim you did? And they say, oh yeah, I did. And I think it's possible. But I have yet to see somebody who either documented the before and after where they were an explosive athlete who like actually looks athletic and retain that after. I just see afters of people who claim they're back to baseline and this is what my peak athleticism was, but it's unimpressive, to be honest. Like it's great that you got this much height, but objectively for a normal person, you are not athletic looking.
Yeah.
You might be able to squat a lot in the gym. You might be able to lift weights, which is fantastic that you can even do that. Mm-hmm. But like explosive athletic movements is a different beast. And
yeah, I get what you're saying. And the best answer I can give to that is possible, but not probable.
Do you have one example you could point to though? Because it's like...
So the reason that I don't is because of the length of time. I only have known about the surgery 3 months before I did mine. So we're talking like September of 22.
But it's like the people who have had the best results and, want to tell the world about how great it was for them.
Most people don't want to tell the world. It wasn't until, so what I'm trying to say is like the people that I know personally are at most under 3 years, right? Mm-hmm. Because it would be the people who were on their way out when I got in, right? So at most, like 2+ years. That is not enough time for somebody who was going to be, who was athletic to be that level athletic.
Some of these forums though and whatnot, like they've existed for a decade plus, like before you were looking at this stuff at all.
Yeah.
And you can see posts going back to 2015, 2014 and people talking about their experience. Mm-hmm. There's horror stories and also success stories. And the success stories are great and people are happy with the result. But like, I am just worried that somebody who's an actual high level athlete is going to get it done thinking they can return to baseline, then they end up not being able to actually sprint properly after, or explosively jump on a basketball court or play tennis the same.
I have a friend who is not just a high level athlete, but a world champion athlete.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't give more details because of privacy, but world champion meaning like won a world championship.
And still competes?
And did the procedure and is now recovering from the procedure.
Okay.
Yes. And we had this question, we talked about it this morning, actually. He's going
to be the case study, bro.
Yeah. And
that's the thing though, dude, is like, now again, this is absolutely not to say don't do it if this is so important to you that you feel like, a 30% hit to your athleticism could be worth it, because I think it would for a lot of people.
Yeah. So I was actually thinking that you might ask me this question because it's a very common one. And so how would I answer it? And like if the average Joe Schmo is like 50 athletic units, right? Out of 100, right?
Sure.
AUs. And then a super athlete's like 95 AUs, right?
Yeah.
Well, if I was like 80 or 85, right? I'm not going to be world champion athlete, and I'm way better than Joe Schmo in that spectrum.
Yeah.
If I regain 90% of my athleticism, I'll still be relatively kind of in the same spot, except I'll be taller.
Yeah.
So for me, that might be worth it. But if I'm like a 95 AU guy, right, and it matters, I would not do this.
Yeah.
I just would not, because even if you get really athletic again, you're not gonna probably be that same level. And if one or two, levels of athleticism matter at that high tier, and that matters to you, don't do it, at least not till after you retire.
Do you know who Dr. Dong Hoon is, by chance? Apparently he's like a highly acclaimed, it sounds like a fake name.
Yeah.
But apparently he's like a highly regarded surgeon who does this on the East Coast or something. Anyway, apparently he is probably the most experienced and respected surgeon in the East. And he said, quoting, "If aiming for 100% recovery for playing football, sprinting, like actually sprinting, the surgery success rate is very low," which is the professional way to say the success rate for returning to post-operative athleticism is close to 0%. And I'm like,
yeah,
like I just have yet to see evidence of anybody doing anything beyond, lifting a lot of weight. Like that's cool. You can probably hypertrophy your muscle to, similar size pre-op, and that's great. But ultimately for like sports, I feel like you have to be like a pickup game kind of guy to be like, if you're an actual like high caliber athlete, you better think harder about it than asking in the comment section on YouTube to some random guy who shows you a 20-meter sprint and some fucking knee ups.
I wonder how many of those people asking that question are really that high of a caliber though.
Sure. But I mean, like it's for some people, it's important to retain, that feeling of capacity to like, what if you're a BJJ athlete and now all of a sudden you can't even compete to the same, like you feel incapable of exerting your, physical capacity because you're just like so sluggish after.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Will
like
I ever do BJJ to the same level that I did before? I was a white belt.
But it's just like watching the movement patterns. It's just like, it reminds me almost of my patellar tendonitis at its worst, and knowing your body's like inhibiting you from going to a point it's gonna be incapable of performing at anymore. And you can just tell like the stop and go explosiveness is gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you can see it in like the guy in the dojo, for example.
Yeah.
He's like, doing high kicks, but they're just like, you're just touching up the thing, dude. Like you're not, I don't know what you were before, but like,
Yeah, I don't think that anyone is going to, let me rephrase that. Most people that do this are not going to be able to get like 100% of their athleticism back, or at least 100% of their potential athleticism back.
But it's reasonable to think you could retain a significant amount of it to a point that the ROI, if the height was that important to you for your quality of life, could very likely outweigh the decrement.
Yes,
Performance.
especially if you already had a higher than average baseline.
Yeah, because I could absolutely see a case too, like you said, where your athleticism points are so high at baseline that even if you drop 15 points after, you're still going to smoke 90% of people in a pickup game, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And also, I don't consider myself normal, and so like it might be, what's the word? When you think very highly of yourself. What's the not presumptuous? Help me out.
I think that makes sense. It might be presumptuous to assume that people will think a certain way because you're,
I might sound conceited in saying this, but I feel like I can do anything I put my mind to, right? And so if I say that I'm going to like be incredibly athletic and lift a crap ton of weight and do everything that I would otherwise have done and do CrossFit or whatever, which will be new to me, but like then I'll do it, right? I don't know how. But I agree that the stats are against me. The odds are totally against me because this is not an easy thing. What I did was not advisable to anybody who wants to be athletic again. And if you are not willing to risk that athleticism, don't do this. Mm-hmm. Just straight up don't. If you're willing to risk it, I still wouldn't do it, but like at least know that there's a real freaking risk, and don't let some marketing guy say, oh, complications are complications everywhere, but it's how you handle the complications that matter, right? And like try to convince you to do something with your body. Yeah. Because everyone who's having this conversation already wants to do it. They just want that little nudge of like, you're going to be okay, right? Look at all these other people. They're fine. You'll be fine. It's like a growth spurt, and it kind of is, except there's a lot more to it. And people are led into this feeling like, oh, I'll be back to normal. I think I will be back to pretty close to normal. But after a shit ton of rehab, a lot of time, and you have no idea how much suffering, dude. Like the amount of pain that I have endured in those 8 months and the ones after, like it's in these 2 years, but like.
And both physical and emotional.
Yes.
And opportunity cost and.
Oh, I lost I used to be I used to have a brokerage, right? And I totally torpedoed that with this. Like I was a mortgage broker and I still was able to close loans while I was there, but it's hard to get new business when you're in another country and struggling to stay awake and not crying in pain, Not that I cried a lot, but I did sometimes. Like that shit, the whole experience was very painful.
And being loaded up on painkillers all the time, probably.
I actually didn't take very many painkillers at all. There was only, really? When I had the infection the first time, because I had it multiple times because it was persistent. I did take painkillers for a while. Like I said, Voltaren was the only one that helped, right? But there was a moment when I took some, but yeah, it was the pain. The pain is really what stopped me from being effective. I did my job well, but I couldn't what was I saying? I lost my business. Like I just couldn't keep it up. I ended up staying there for twice as long as I was expecting to, and I put my family through twice as much. There's a lot of actual cost to this, more than just the money. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm assuming even if you're like, a stay-at-home job too, you could be overlooking the complications of simply just being able to focus on work while you're sitting there in the positions you have to be in to actually do this thing. Yeah. Constantly being impaired from doing basic functions like going to the bathroom. Like even if you work at home, it's not like it's an easy thing to be
in constant pain. Yeah. And working and focusing. No. Yeah. Like there was a point where I had, I think it was like 4 surgeries in 3 weeks. 4 surgeries in 3 weeks and something like that. It was ridiculous. And my legs, remember that picture I showed you where the before and after? Yeah. Right. Well, there was a point all the way up until almost the end where my legs were still bigger than they are now. Like they were muscular too. I was surprised at how much of that muscle I had retained. And then when I had those back-to-back surgeries, I went to those sticks that you saw in that picture. Like,
Yeah, we'll put up before and after on the screen if we can remember.
yeah.
And we should get a video if we can after. I don't know if it's going to fit in the frame, but we'll see of
me walking.
Yeah, and just like, I don't know if you're willing to show what the current status update is. Like we're about
It's not impressive, but okay.
I think you'd be surprised, man. Like you're still a house and very impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Let me ask this. If there was an ideal candidate for this, because presumably people see this, they're like, easy for you to say you wouldn't do it. You were 6 feet to start. Shut the fuck up, dude. If you're talking to a guy who's like 5'3", and it's going to be a huge differentiator for like massively impactful potentially for his quality of life, like what would you tell that person? Or like what is the ideal candidate in your opinion?
Yeah, the ideal candidate is somebody who's between 140 and 190, 180 maybe, who's 5'6", because the weight is going to make this a lot easier, right? Preferably you're athletic, and the height is perfect because you're going to maximize your benefit. So if you go 3 inches from 5'6" to 5'9" is a huge gain. You're gonna go from basically being called short to not being called short anymore, right? And that's like the biggest level of gain. Another one would be from like, if you're like 5'8" and you get to 6 foot, 5'11", like that's a big, in that range. But in my opinion, 5'6" to 5'9", you're gonna get the most benefit. It actually makes sense because at 5'6", you are considered short by a lot of people. That will negatively affect you, right? And so you get a huge plus. In my opinion, that would be worth the risk if it's bothering you. Some people are happy at 5'6". Some people are more confident at 5'6" than I am at like any height. Like they have all the confidence in the world.
Worth noting, like there's absolutely incredibly successful short people who are
How tall is Joe Rogan? I don't even know.
I don't know. I think he might have gave his height on the show the other day. I just don't remember what he said. But not that tall, and he's doing just great.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, height it matters, but it's not like...
Yeah, ultimately it is your mind and how you perceive it. And yeah, that's easy to say. Everyone has their own limitations, and height's a big limiting factor. Yeah. But like, people still will excel and do great in spite of it.
But I have heard a lot of stories from people who did this, and their stories are heartbreaking. Like, when they would tell me why they did this, I would feel like almost like I had imposter syndrome while I was there, because I'm like, I'm not short. Why did I do this? My reasons.
Yeah, it must have felt so out of place. Were you the only 6-footer that started at?
No, I'm not the only, but I'm one of the few. And
what happened to the other one?
Other ones, yeah.
Of the 50 people you know, multiple people were over 6 feet that started.
Maybe not over, but
or at
close.
And what did they want to do? Get to 6'3" or 6'6" like you?
Yeah. There's one I know who went from 5'9" to I know 5'9" is not close to 6, but went 5'9" to 6'3". There's another one who did the exact same. I think it was like 5'10" to 6'3". There's a guy that I know of that was taller than me. Actually starting, he was over 6 feet, and he's
in the NBA now. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, sorry, no. His end height was 188, which is 6'2", almost 6'2.5", like 6'2"-ish. There's a lot of people who are already kind of tall and just wanted to be taller, and those are the kind of people who came to me and said, you know, because of you, like I was afraid of doing this, you know, and then I saw you and I'm like, yeah, I think I can do this too. And I'm like, shit, that's what people are saying. Like, oh no, what have I done? Like, I need to correct this.
So if you were to call out like how to really perceive the marketing that is out there, what could you say for being able to spot bullshit or just be able to perceive what is out there in with more clarity as to like the realities of the situation? Because often you see these, you know, check out this guy, get an amazing result, and look, here's him running down a hallway. He's fine now.
Yeah. Just be aware of like the times that the reviews are being made. Because if you've got somebody who just finished lengthening and then they still haven't really gone through their recovery yet, then
they're in the honeymoon phase.
They're in the honeymoon phase. Like, they had a really hard time getting there. Most of the time they had a hard time getting there, but they did that with that expectation in mind. They knew it was going to be hard. And so they're not complaining about it, right? But they think that it's going to be hard, but only getting better from now on. And that's not always the case. Sometimes they go home and they realize, oh no, what do? This is harder now because now I have to do my normal life.
Take in the hair loss world, for example, you'll see companies that literally will Photoshop the before and afters of the pictures and like claim, some crazy result. And it's not even real.
And a lot of people just don't want to look bad too. Like, if they are doing this and they are doing it in public, which is not usually the case, but when they are, they also don't want to admit that they made a huge fucking mistake, because like that was me too for a while. It's like, I didn't want to admit that I made a huge fucking mistake, right? Because it's embarrassing to tell everyone that like, I know what I'm doing, don't worry. All my friends told me not to do it. I decided to do it anyway.
Yeah.
And then to just be like, yeah, that was a oopsie,
Yeah.
It doesn't really make you look very good, does it? But I would just say to be careful with the marketing, because even if everything is being totally transparent and honest, I'm not saying that they're necessarily lying. It's just, it can give an impression of this procedure being either easier or more worth it for more people than it actually is.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, I appreciate you, man. What is next for you? Like, it seems like you are back to a public Instagram, at least for the time being.
Yeah.
Do you think you're gonna keep it that way, or what do you think is next for you?
What I want to be next for me is I want to close this chapter of my life. And so get all the help that I can and do everything I can to get fully healed, and then show like, hey, this is it. And I just want to move on to being a dad and a husband to the best of my ability. And as far as being public, if I could use that to somehow help out, I don't want to say I want to be an influencer, because
Sure.
like that's
Cringy.
Yeah, kind of, right? But I feel like I don't know. I thought about starting a blog.
Okay.
I thought about like doing YouTube videos. I don't really know what is next. I want to close this chapter out first.
Yeah.
And I don't mind being public. It's fine.
Well, hopefully this helps serve as a bit of a, deep dive into where you're at now with things, your thoughts on the whole process, start to finish, kind of what people should look out for, trials and tribulations, and just kind of gives a high-level overview of the good, the bad, and the ugly with this stuff, because I feel like you haven't really had an opportunity to speak in great depth on the subject. Often it's been, little bite-sized snippets on news, press releases or whatever, or like a company trying to use your image to promote their stuff. And yeah, hopefully this helps give some insight to anybody who's curious and looking at this. And hopefully you feel good about being able to put it out there, because I know this has been something you've been contending with for a while. So
yeah, and there's a lot of stuff that we aren't necessarily able to go over everything, but I probably will if somebody has any more in-depth questions, they're welcome to contact me, and I'm more than willing to help out, because I really just don't want people to be doing this and getting screwed over and then having to live with the regret of having done this if this is something that they didn't really have to do.
Is there a social media profile they should reach out if they had questions? You might get, I don't know how inundated you would get, and if you have the time.
Yeah, I can't promise to answer them all, because, but Brian the Sasquatch.
Okay.
Yeah, it replaced Got My Knees Done. But
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks for your time, man, and I appreciate you, and appreciate you sharing your story. And thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys soon.